GoldFish report. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't even, hold on a second. Darn, I didn't record this. Hold on, record. Here we go. Okay, now we're live. Here we go. Hold on a second, folks. Live streaming. Okay, here we go. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is December 14th, 2019. I don't know why I wrote 2016. I don't know where my mind is today. Oh, I know why I wrote that. So I'm just going to wait for, hi, William, how are you? I'm just waiting. I know there's a lot of people coming in tonight, and I kind of want to wait for a few more people to come up in the chat, so I don't have to repeat the directions. Hi, Maria. How's Maryland? Is it wet down there? It's raining up here. Blue Angel, hello. Good to see everybody. It's date night with the GoldFish report. So we're really excited about this. I actually should get this live stream URL here. Let's see. That's weird. Just trying to figure this out. Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody. Proud lady in Texas. Hi, Sherry. Good to see you, Sherry. I'm so glad that you're joining us. I have this really bad itch. My face was all red and blown up yesterday. And I'm only going to screen share this once really quick, but I just wanted our viewers to know that, there's, oh, no, that's not the picture. That's not the picture. I thought I sent that one in. No, I didn't send it. Yeah, I had some pretty bad targeting on my face, and so I've had. Here, I'm going to put this URL in the chat, and I want you guys to tell me if this is the URL that you have that for the live stream. That might actually go to a different interview. I don't know why it's actually coming up as Rob Potter's interview, but for some reason it is. So, Wes, how are you guys? Can somebody check that URL link and tell me if this is the live stream link? And if not, can you put the live stream link in here? Hi, Dr. Arden. Thank you for all your lovely comments that you always leave. It's very nice of you. And I'm really glad that you're enjoying the reports. Oh, thank you. We're just waiting for Audrey Ewis to join us. Let me double check. Oh, Audrey is with us. Okay, so I was just waiting for a few more people to start filling into the room. Shari, could you check that link for me, if you don't mind, the link I put in there? Does that go to this live stream, or is that going to another interview? Because I have a feeling, I'm not sure where that's going, actually. Is it possible somebody can thumbs up? Is that a thumbs up for the URL? It's still loading. Okay. Okay, well, I don't want to wait too long. I wanted everybody to know, welcome to our live stream Q&A tonight with our special guest, Audrey Ewis from New Lira. You know, we have had Audrey Ewis on the GoldFish Report in the past, and we are happy to welcome him back again to have an opportunity to, well, he's going to launch his new radio called Ascension Radio. It's not to the live stream. Okay, I'm getting two different answers. Sorry, guys. Can someone put the link to the URL to the live stream that we're on right now into the chat, if you don't mind? This way we can all kind of make sure we have the right link for people who don't have the link, because I'm not sure that I have clicking on the right link. So anyway, yeah. So Audrey Ewis is going to come and talk to us about a lot of things. Okay, thank you. Regarding fascinating stuff, folks. We're going to talk about time travel. We're going to talk about meditation, the kind of craft he came here on. We're going to talk about a little bit of his backstory what it's like on New Lyra. We're going to also talk about some photoradionics and also the progress that we're making on Ascension. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Standing Rock and what that really represented to all of us. And of course, we're going to talk about the launch of his new radio station called Ascension Radio. And we're very, very excited about sharing this information with everybody. How this is going to work. First, I want to give a warning. I guess I have to put out a disclaimer first. If you feel like you can't handle the idea, or if it clashes with your belief system, the idea of someone from another place other than Earth, then I suggest if you feel like you will have a conflict with that, with your belief system or mentally or emotionally, then I suggest you not watch this interview. Okay? Audrey looks just like us. You would never know. In fact, lots of people who are not from Earth look just like us because, of course, you know, there's a lot of people like us in that, are not from Earth that look just like us. So, of course, everyone has this idea of Star Wars in their mind of that image in the bar, but, they're not all one-eyed monsters and, Jabba the Hutt. They're not, they're not all strange looking people. A lot of them look just like us. In fact, you wouldn't even know it. In fact, they've been living among us and we never even knew it. So it's really nothing to be worried about. But right. Well, that's the point. And if I feel like if people do have, any problems, because, I take this responsibility very seriously, but I have to put the disclaimer out that if you feel like can't handle that, if it conflicts with your belief system, please don't watch this interview. Okay. So I needed to put that out there. And this is really the launch. This is our season's launch. This is a season fundraiser, fund drive. So how this is going to work is the first hour is the interview. And then the second hour is the super chat Q&A. Some people said that they don't have Paradise Community. Some people said that they don't have access to the super chat. So you can make a donation at the GoldFish report, but it requires a donation, a super chat donation to ask a question. Okay. And this is, to help launch the new Ascension Radio, which is the former Wolf Spirit Radio. And we'll have Audrey discuss all of that with us. And of course, to help raise funds for the GoldFish report. That's where all the funds will go for operating expenses, folks. So we can keep bringing these interviews to you, over 400. This is our 416th GoldFish report. And this is the way we're going to make it in public broadcasting. So this is the best thing we hope that we're going to provide to you. We feel that we're providing to you quality interviews with information that in some way enriches your life. And so that's what it's all about here. So I have an itchy skin condition. Boy, if I could just show you guys what I looked like yesterday, you wouldn't even believe that I have been targeted, I believe, and I've had some radiation burns on my face. Oh, that's why it never sent. Okay. You're not going to believe this is what I looked like yesterday. I am going to screen share it for you guys just so you have an idea that some of this information, there's some people who don't want it to come out, because when you think about it, folks, if you really knew that, there was life on other planets, and we would want to go there, and we would want to know how they got here, and we would want to know about the technology. And of course, that the powers that be don't want us to know that. And that's the only reason. So it's great to expand your belief system and expand your horizon. And again, I warn anybody who feels like that conflicts with your belief system, to please not watch this interview, because I don't take any responsibility if you freak out and can't handle what we're going to talk about today. So for all of you who are there, we're going to go into, I'm going to welcome, let's see, did I do all of my announcements? I think I did. I put the disclaimer up. And as I said, the interview is the first hour. The second hour is the super chat Q&A. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Audrey Ewis. Welcome, Audrey. Are you there? Are you with us there, Audrey?
I'm with you. Hello, everyone.
So
Glad to be here.
Audrey, I don't know if you're going to be watching this from another device, but there, I will be monitoring all the live streams, all the comments. I don't know if you're able to see them on another device, but I'll let you know. The second hour, we're going to do the question and the Q&A. So Audrey, it's great for you to be back here. We're going to launch your Ascension Radio, um, formerly Wolf Spirit Radio. I'm not quite sure where exactly you want to start, but I always like to give a little background because for some viewers, this is new information. A lot of people don't know who you are. But Audrey and I go back quite a ways, and you helped us celebrate our 100th Goldfish Report. Do you remember that, Audrey?
I do. That was quite a while back.
It's a long time ago. We've been working
Oh,
really
yeah.
hard. Exactly. So tell us about your Ascension Radio, because this is really a very exciting thing. It's an exciting opportunity because this is where people can go to, um, listen. Well, we're going to be featuring the Goldfish Report. We'll have a spot on there where the Goldfish Report archives will be featured at a certain time on your station. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So, yeah, we're looking to open up a slot for you every 2 weekends, or every other Saturday, in other words. Um, we have quite a bit of room in our calendar, and we're always looking for more content. We're looking for more things to share. And Louisa, you have a plethora of things to share. So I'm more than happy to have you aboard the Ascension Radio family. And formerly Wolf Spirit Radio, we picked up all as many of the old hosts as we could, including James Borg from Euphoria Chronicles, Colin Nazu, Open Mind, and Martin Snake Gamer with Truth Without Fear. We have quite a few shows that we've been adding on to our list here, and now we have Goldfish Report.
Absolutely, and we have quite an archive, Audrey. And one of the things I was thinking is like every week, it'll just the archive interviews could run, and then we can add the live interviews as we go along. So you and I can work that out. But just folks know that you can find Goldfish Report on the radio at MPAC, mpaq.org. That's HTTP. I'm going to put this in the chat so people can see this actually. So it's
Well, to be more
HTTPS.
specific, it will be https://radio.mpac,
Oh
mpaq.org.
no.
O-R-G.
You know what? I have to redo it because
Not a problem.
spell check, you know how spell check is? They auto correct, auto suggestion. They put in something different. So let me do it again.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, that's so annoying. I mean, me and my other co-host Steve, we came up with a whole new language based on linguistic rules of how the autocorrect actually screws up our words, our text. Isn't that something? It's amazing.
Oh,
We have to
wow.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, linguistics of computers is quite different than the linguistics of people.
Yeah. Uh, .org. Now let's make sure it doesn't go to Compat. Yeah. Okay. So the radio station. So Audrey, is this broadcasting on your radio station right now?
You've been live on the radio this whole time, ever since you started here at the bottom of the hour. So,
Excellent, good. So I put the link in the chat box there. Hi, everybody in the chat. We're so glad that you joined us. This is date night with the Goldfish Report, and we're going to get started now. Audrey, I think there was some people probably who aren't familiar with who you are. What I want to do is I'm going to screen share a picture that I think will help people to get a better idea of who you are. So
okay.
let me do that, and then if you could just give your backstory. Um, I think we're going to have a lot of questions about life on New Lyra, how it is that you came here, how it is that you are still here. But let's just start first with this image, if you could.
Okay, so May 12th of 1972, I had arrived here to Earth from New Lyra. It takes us approximately anywhere from 7 hours and 25 to 7 hours and 30 minutes to get here. How do we do that? We break light speed. We literally break light speed. We warp through using thought, intention, and photoradionic drive. Our vehicles are quite fast. They're what people here refer to as beam ships, but really they are silver disc vehicles. They are circular. We have both a graviton engine and a photoradionic drive engine. The photoradionic drive engine we only use outside of an atmosphere because it accelerates quarks within atoms, which can cause a chain reaction in your atmosphere, literally lighting it on fire. So we don't use that within an atmosphere, only within the open of space. Graviton engine, however, utilizes gravity and gravitational sources, allows us to cling to and slingshot around gravitational sources to increase speed if we don't have photoradionic propulsion. So here I arrived on May 12th of 1972. We were following a ley line. We were on our way towards Mount Shasta, and we were shot down over the deserts of Nevada. And when we were shot, a missile had hit the front end of our ship, blowing a very big hole in our ship. The whole ship lost cabin pressure. We started going down for a spiral as our hull was on fire. And spinning around nauseatingly fast, we crashed into the desert floor of Nevada there near Groom Lake. Not more than about 5 minutes after that, a bunch of vehicles and helicopters came flying over and driving through the deserts and surrounded our vehicle, which was still aflame in the front. The hull opening where it was blown out was still visible. They had climbed into our ship and pulled us out one by one, dragging us out to the desert floor, and immediately strapped us to gurneys. Even we were injured, but we weren't broken, from the crash, thank goodness. But they took us into Area 51. They took us into an elevator where they rode us down many levels to what I found to be a level where they have many cells. I didn't know what a cell was back then. I didn't know what a prison was. I didn't understand what they were doing or why. I thought maybe they were trying to help, but I felt nothing but ill will from some of these people. I may not have spoken English back then, but I still had telepathy, and I could still read emotional energy from these people using empathic ability. So I could understand that they did not come to help us. In fact, they came to contain us. At least I knew that much when we were put in our cells. I was put in one cell, Ariane Haas was put in the other cell next to me. And, you couldn't see anybody in each of these cells except those that were in front of you across the hallway through their clear windows. The window walls, which are on the outer side of the cell there facing the hallway, are so thick that they're bulletproof. These are super thick, multi-layered windows that they use as a clear wall so that they can still see us when they walk through the hallways. The doors are also clear. So anyway,
This photo,
they locked us in the room and they started taking pictures of us. One intake scientist came into my cell with some what I now know as camera equipment. I didn't understand what that was on a tripod. Back then. I wasn't sure what kind of a device they were aiming at me, and naturally I was a little shocked that it was pointing in my direction. And when they took the picture, it was a bright flash that it was really surprising. I wasn't expecting a camera like that to take a picture of me. I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what they were doing, but they made me stand in one position right against the side wall there, the white wall, and they took a picture of me.
Hmm.
At that point, I knew I was in for a very long, hard experience there. And every week, a couple of scientists would come in, they would sit down in front of me. There was a metal table, and there were chairs that they would bring in. They wouldn't leave the chairs in there, but they would bring these chairs in and they would sit them there, and they would sit me down, and they would try to get me to draw for them, and they would
Hmm.
point to these symbols
Hmm.
on a picture that was taken of Ariane Haas's arm. They were pointing to
Hmm.
the tattoo, and they
What?
wanted to know what it was. And they were trying to get me to describe it in some way to them, but I didn't understand English, and I certainly didn't want to tell these angry people what
Right.
those symbols meant. I wasn't going to give away that information.
So I'm screen sharing this image right now that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of those symbols that are on her arm describe our planet, describe our system, and how to get there. Even the seasons, the poles, and a number of other things. Specific coordinates can be calculated from it. But there's a special way that you calculate that, and it's not using mathematics here.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, I wasn't going to tell them where my home world was. I didn't trust those people. I certainly didn't want those people laying hands on me or Ariane Haas or our ship or anything else,
Hmm.
you know? And so every week they would start taking me down to the next level down. They would come in, they would take me out of the cell. We'd walk down to the elevator.
Hmm.
They'd be holding both of my arms so I couldn't go anywhere. They had one person stand behind and two on each side of me. And they walked me into this elevator where they'd take me down to the next level. And they'd take me into a room down the next hallway and the next sublevel and strap me to a gurney. They'd strap my legs down, my waist. They'd strap my arms down. They'd strap my neck down so I couldn't sit up. And they began cutting me open with knives without any anesthetic. Now, mind you, my larynx wasn't as developed as it is now. I could not scream. I could not make noises. It took a long time for me to develop my voice, but I'll get to that later. Um, they were cutting me open without any painkillers, no anesthetics, nothing.
Jeez.
They drilled into my bone with a drill, taking now that I know now samples of my bone marrow and some other things. Imagine having a drill go straight into your bone, sucking out bone marrow while you're still wide awake without any painkillers, and you can't scream. The only thing I could do was shed tears.
Hmm.
Nobody cared there. I was a piece of science to them. They were taking samples of my DNA, samples of my bone marrow, trying to figure out what made me so different. That's
And
all I knew.
and so this image here, I'm going to screen share this again, was, I guess, this is how they um, categorized you. They had taken your photo, as you said, and here, uh, where was this that they? It's like a, I don't know, a celestial mugshot. I don't know what to call it. An ID.
I, I,
Clear.
I, I say to my lady here now that it is like my tribal ID, is what
Mhm.
I consider it to be.
And here it says species, human celestial. Interesting, huh, folks? Look, we have neighbors. They're, the Pleiades 7 hours away. I mean, that's shorter than half some of the distance we travel here in the US or anywhere else. It's really amazing, and they're that close. And so gender male tells you that, I mean, obviously, like, you look at a face like that, you look like you're 5 years old. I mean, you look so youthful, and I know that that comes from your well, it comes from a lot. It comes from not eating GMOs, not living, with not living with all these electronic, devices, not having nanobots in your system, and of course your meditation, which I know you're going to talk about in a little while. Um, what about the fabric that you have on? It's interesting. You have it like draped over your head and everything. And I mean, we're used to seeing that in Star Wars. What exactly was that material that you had?
That was made of a special kind of a silk. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a really highly special fabric that comes from where we come from
Hmm.
on New Lyra, and it was woven using um, a type of a crochet work that Arianna had woven for me. That was supposed to protect my head and my body from light, but we also had our body suits on that protected us against radiation.
Hmm.
Our body suits were white in color, and they stretched as we grew. We didn't have to put on new clothing constantly as we get bigger. These things stretch with us, they grow with us. So if we're out in space
Hmm.
for a very long time and you happen to grow a bit, you don't have to worry about having to have extra suits to accommodate for your growing size.
Yeah.
So these suits protected us kind of like an exoskin, protecting us against UV radiation, free radicals, gamma, and other things, X-ray radiation, and otherwise anything that is not normal for the human body.
Hmm. Now here it says that it doesn't. Oh, it says age. I mean, your age is, you can tell people what your age is, but here they gave you 19 to 28, um, because you're 5 feet 11, and you don't have 5 year olds that are 5 feet 11. So clearly they knew you were older, and the fact that you looked so young obviously fascinated them, and they wanted to know what your DNA was like. I'm going to screen share a picture of Ariana House now because you talked about her, and it's interesting what they say about on her tribal ID, if you will. Let me get this photo up, and then you can describe that how you came here together. And they consider her human celestial female, 7 feet 3 inches. Hear that, folks? It's amazing, right? Age 78 to 100. And look at her picture. This is great stuff. I mean, it's such another world for us when you're not bombarded with the electromagnetic fog and radiation, um, and you don't have the kind of stressors just for survival. Which I think, Audrey Lewis, you could probably talk about that a little bit too. Origin, Pleiades constellation. So there you have it, folks. If you want proof that this is who you're talking to, because she was older, I guess they thought she was your mother. Is that what they thought, Audrey?
Well, that's what they thought, but they were wrong.
Right, they were wrong. So I guess that's why they put a little bit more information on her card here, and it says origin Pleiades constellation and non-threatening, so and also non-verbal communication. Very interesting. Um, Craft was a Mercury STA electric disc. I don't know if that means electric. I have no idea why it's calling it a Mercury. It's kind of weird. And it had a
No, this is
registration
what they
number.
but yes. The registration number actually is 51272. That was sublevel 9, cell 16.
Yeah, and why is it called a Mercury Craft? Or was it made out of mercury? That's what it is. Is that part of
It
it?
has a type of mercury in it and the graviton engine that circulates. And it actually goes in two directions, kind of like a gyro.
Right, that would make sense. And so this is interesting. And looks, they said she's aged 78 to 100. I can't get over this. I can't even get over your picture, Audrey Ewis. It's really hard for me to get over your picture and how, uh, did you want to share your age with our viewers? You don't have to.
Well,
You don't have to, but I'm going to screen share your picture again just so,
if I
um,
did, they probably wouldn't believe it.
oh,
What I can say is that truly, I don't know my exact age. I'm I'm very old, but yet I don't age the same way these people do. So age to me really is not something I think about.
mhm.
If you can heal age itself, what is time?
Well,
If
we're gonna,
age doesn't
yeah.
hold you back, what does time mean to you?
Well, we're going to talk about time travel. We're going to talk about understanding this concept of time a
Absolutely.
little bit. I just wanted to get past the craft. I wanted to do this first, talk a little bit about these images. And um, was there anything else that you wanted to say about these pictures before we move on?
Well, later on in my time there, about 2 years later, after being harassed by these scientists for 2 years and studied for 2 years like a lab rat,
Right.
Richard Ben Kramer,
Hmm.
he worked there at Area 51. He started visiting me quite often, started spending time with me in my cell, and he would sit there and try to teach me to say English words, things like chair and cup and spoon and fork and knife and plate and bowl and table. And, then he brought a teddy bear when I wasn't really responding to those things, brought me a teddy bear, and he taught me teddy bear and gave it to me as a gift.
Hmm.
He was the only person there I would consider to have been my friend. I started to trust him a little more, but I was still uneasy because I could sense that, although he was trying to gain my trust in a good way, that he was also reporting to his higher ups. I already knew that they were basically still studying me, even though he was being nice. But I did start trying to enunciate slowly words, but I still couldn't make sound with my larynx. Now, when you're telepathic, you have no need of your larynx to make sounds to communicate. We communicate mind to mind. We communicate using a form of intention, it's like a multifaceted Wi-Fi packet that contains lots of information, whether it be emotions, thoughts, feelings, memories, an entire conversation in just a nanosecond. Um, what you experience, what you feel, what you've heard, what you say to others, and what has been done to you and what you've done to them, everything can also be revealed in that way. People can read into you
Yes.
telepathically from where I come from, which is why I say, and why I have said in many broadcasts many moons ago, that the reason we don't take people from here to where we are,
Hmm.
where we live, is because we our people will read their minds, and their minds contain so many things that are not so good.
Hmm.
And
Right.
when we broadcast a single thought to one of our people, it broadcasts to all of our people all at the same time. So it's like a mind virus.
Hmm.
If we bring someone in that's very negative in nature, that has not learned to balance their thoughts, their emotions, and their hearts, it's very
Right.
difficult, which is why I encourage people to practice letting go of their anchors.
Mm.
What I've taught in the past is that you can't sail a boat with your anchors down. You can't fly a hot air balloon with your weights attached. If you want to ascend, if you want to fly, if you want to soar and move forward with your life, you have to let go of all of those things that hold you back, including forgiving people, whether you believe they deserve to be forgiven or not.
Mm.
Somebody has to let go of the rope, or somebody's going to lay down in the mud on their faces. So you have to let go of the rope. You have to let go of your anchors. And this applies to, if people want to be able to visit our people,
Mm-hmm.
to come to our world to see how we live. They have to learn how to do it in a very good way without dragging baggage behind them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to let it go and leave it behind. Now, it's a good thing to bring memories and things with you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's good to do that, but to hold on to them firmly, grudgingly, to hold on to things in an angry manner is a bad thing. We don't believe in anger where
Mm-hmm.
we come from. We don't have war. We don't have politics. We don't have currency. We don't have any of those things. So why should we allow people to come to our world
Yeah.
that have a lot of baggage and negativity that we don't need to be among our people? We
Very
don't
true.
need to corrupt our people with those things when
Uh,
our society is already balanced. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to, for people who are just joining, this is a two-part interview. The first part is the interview. So the first hour is the interview. The second hour is a super chat Q&A. We are doing a fund drive basically to help launch Ascension Radio, which we talked about in the beginning of the interview, and of course for GoldFish Report as well. So this is a combined effort, and we do appreciate your super chats. You can donate at any time that you'd like, but the Q&A will be the second hour, and we do have a question. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I know that you're not able to stay this one, Heaven's Door. I will ask your question, starting in the second hour, and it's really a great question, and I really hope that people have a lot of great questions. They are, and this is how it works, folks. It's a $20 super chat question, okay? And that's how we do it. So that does help us to, for public broadcasting. That is one way that we can help support interviews like this and public broadcasting for the kinds of broadcasting information, the kind of programs that we provide for our viewers. So we're starting this new because we've decided either we're going to make it or break it on GoldFish Report, and we're either going to have fund drives and help to have special interviews to help share this information with people and help prepare people for what it seems to be, Audrey. It seems to be that we are being prepared for this anyway. We have the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs. The president started the U.S. Space Command Space Force. I have talked on my
Absolutely.
Right. I have talked on my previous reports about laws that we already have passed regarding asteroid mining, and law that deals with space policy, which the jurisdiction is within the courts of the United States. I've talked about this at great length. I probably will end up doing a special report called Bullet Points. Those are my special policy review reports that are available on Vimeo. And so these kinds of, we're tiptoeing into disclosure is really what this is about. And I think an interview like this really helps people to realize that there's a lot of people who are from off world who look just like us. They're not threatening. People like Audrey Ewis are very peaceful people, very peaceful. I don't think I've ever seen. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Liz, for the 199. I appreciate it. There's people who are very peaceful who come here, but I have to say, not everybody is, because we have been. Look, we've had a problem with some off-worlders, Audrey. You could talk about this a little bit, who have not had our best interest at heart, who basically are more advanced and intelligent than us, and so much so that we don't even know that they exist. But statues of them are all over the world. We have these, we have a lot of history, a lot of Sumerian history, a lot of ancient Egyptians, lots of cultures all over the world that have statues of reptiles. So maybe you want to. Oh, excellent,
Absolutely.
Liz. Thank you very much. So we'll have Liz. If you have a question, make sure you put it in the comments on the chat there, so we can ask Audrey in the second hour. Yeah. So what happened? We do have some. We also had, remember the name of this fellow, Gary McKinney, who was the UK systems administrator, who hacked into the US military server. And what he discovered there was that the United States already has a space fleet. I mean, this is long before this was announced. And that there was a lot of
Space program.
Yeah, and he disclosed the secret space program, although he wasn't allowed to disclose anything much about it. Certainly still remains declassified, but it looks like we are really getting to that point where we are getting ready for disclosure, and an interview like this, I think is one that will help make it welcoming to accept the peaceful races. Now, how do we know who's peaceful and who isn't? We're not telepathic, so I'll let Audrey, speak on that a little bit.
Well, before I wanted to go into that, I wanted to quickly finish up with my story here a little bit.
Okay, sorry about
Um,
that.
so Richard Ben Kramer one day unlocked our cells. There were no guards in the hallways. It was completely empty and quiet. Naturally, when you're stuck in a cell for 2 years, you're a little nervous to step out of it. He encouraged me to come out with him. He had a folder in his left hand that had a bunch of documents, and I remember he walked me out into the hallway, and the other cell 16, was also unlocked. He let Arianhas out, who needed help. We had to help her walk out of the cell because she was so weak. She had been only drinking water
Mm.
and meditating. The whole time she was there, she did not eat once.
You're talking about 2 years.
For 2 years, she did not eat. She just lived on water and meditation. But she was withering away. She was very thin and could hardly walk. So we helped her to the elevator. He rode us up to the top, and we went to S4, where they held our ship chained down. He walks us over there, and I didn't understand at first what he was doing. And mind you, let's rewind back to the elevator. When we were going up that elevator, I noticed that when the folder flipped open a little bit, our pictures were in there. They weren't as aged as they are now. But those photos were in that folder that he was holding in his left hand. Anyway, so we make our way to S4. We go to the ship, and Arianhas immediately made the bay door of the ship open. Right? Richard Ben Kramer stood there, and he had my teddy bear in his hand, and he handed it to me. And I looked at him, and I tried to signal to him to come with. But he just stood there, and he just stared at us, and he said, "No, you go." He said, "I'll be okay." And I got on the ship, but I didn't want the door to close yet. I wanted him to come, and he said, "No, you need to go now." He said, "Go now." And we closed the bay door, and that was the last time I had seen him. I still have that teddy bear to this day. So I was taken to, we flew as far out as New York, where Arianhas lowered that vehicle down to the ground. She didn't know. She had signaled to me that she didn't know if she could make it. And if she couldn't, better one to die than two. It was basically the communication. She opened the bay door and let me out. And I've been here ever since. I walked through the cold all the way to the nearest town, walking in my bare feet after she took off. Walking in my bare feet through the ice, the snow. I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel my legs. I had very thin clothing on, only what I was wearing in Area 51. And walked my way all the way to the nearest town, where as I was walking on, when I found road, which was hard to see because there was snow on it, I didn't know what road was. I just knew it was easier to walk on that than through the forest I was walking through. A police officer, I didn't know that it was a police officer back then. He pulls up next to me, and he rolls his window down in shock. It's really cold out, and I'm not wearing a jacket. I'm not wearing boots. I'm not wearing anything that would be construed as winter clothing. It was very cold. And he's asking me what I now know is, where are your parents? Where do you live?
Um,
But I didn't know what that meant back then. I didn't know English.
hmm.
And because I didn't answer them, they took me to an orphanage where I spent another 2 years before I was adopted in 1976. So I was raised by a very good family, taught by a very good family that worked with me very carefully to teach me how to speak English and work with society to becoming a working member of society, a good slave in the society.
Right.
I was taught to be a slave,
Well, this is the
given
slave society.
yes, given a social security number, given my slave number. They might as well
Yeah,
have made it a barcode on my neck. But
pretty much.
short of that, they are putting RFID chips in people, but that's a whole other story.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I learned to be a working member of society. Within 24 years, I learned how to speak English as clear as I do. It took a lot of practice, a lot of mistakes. I still have trouble with metaphors, but I understand English and I understand all of you. I've suffered with all of you here long enough to understand what the problem is, where the problem is. Now, how do you fix the problem? The problem is society, the cabal. The problem is that you have captors. You have people that are running slaves like cars to the bone. I did another broadcast where I spoke about how your body is like a vehicle. And this vehicle, you're only taught how to drive it until it breaks down.
Hmm.
And you might have AAA from the government that will pull you back and help you fix it here in the hospitals.
Hmm.
But they don't teach you how to maintain your car. They don't teach you how to make it last longer, what types of fuels to put into it. They don't teach you how to be your own mechanic. They don't give you the driver's manual to your car. They don't teach you these things when you come into this world. These are all things that you either know how to do or you don't, because in this society, the Vatican and a lot of the bigger groups here in this cabal, they like to hide information from you in very big vaults, things that would be highly beneficial for all of you to know. They like to hide things that could save your lives. They like to hide cures for diseases they create.
Hmm.
They have patents on cures for many things that you guys take chemo for and other things. HIV, cancer, and other diseases that were manufactured, patented, with
Right.
a cure also patented right next to it that you will never see. Unless you all stand up to this cabal, unless you all stand up for yourselves as a united front.
Well, earlier on the
Everyone has to
goldfish,
work together.
excuse me,
Go
Audrey.
ahead.
Well, you're right, and we're moving along on the topics. We have a lot of topics. We're almost through our first hour already, and there's still so much that we want to cover, folks. We are planning on doing a 1 hour um, Q&A, but I'll be honest with you, I think we're going to end up doing 2 hours if there's a lot of people who want to ask the questions in the super chat Q&A. I think there are going to be a lot of questions, but I want to let you know I was, certainly, agreeable with extending the time because already our first hour is almost up, and I know Audrey has wanted to also talk about meditation and time travel, which maybe we should move along on because I think we might come back and do this again so you can expand on this a little bit more in detail. But there are a lot of topics that you wanted to cover. So, um,
Absolutely. So, what would you like me to talk about next?
well, um, let's talk about time travel because that was one of the topics that you wanted to talk about. And the whole concept, we're familiar with let me just take this off. We are familiar with the Philadelphia experiment. We understand that there was a series of frequencies that were engaged on this ship. Um, that the Navy was conducting. And I believe this was Nikola Tesla technology. If I'm not mistaken, that's where we got it from. Uh, I mean, he could have gotten it from an off-world source. I don't know, but apparently they were, and there's a movie on this too, in fact, where they threw this into a very high powered. They had what transmitters on the ship, and they were messing and fudging around with frequencies that they didn't really understand very well. This was tied into the Montauk project because it time traveled. We had Al Bielek and his brother who were involved, who were survived this and actually jumped off the ship when they tried to. I think it was creating a black hole. A lot of crazy things were happening because they ripped this space-time continuum. I don't know the details, maybe you do, but when they tried to bring the ship back, they didn't do it correctly, and the sailors were actually embedded within, molecularly embedded within the ship, if people recall this story. So obviously something really went wrong there. So obviously, whenever there's good technology given to us, we tend to weaponize it, which is terrible. I wouldn't do it if I was in
It
charge.
has been the history of all technology that's ever been given to these people. So here's the thing, when they were messing with those frequencies, they only changed the frequencies of their bodies and parts of the ship itself enough to shift it in time. Now, it caused a merging of the molecular structure like that because they didn't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't contain it. It was very sporadic and random. So what
So they
happens
traveled
here
forward though in the
is,
future, right? That's how Al
yes,
Bielek,
they
that's how
did.
they, okay, maybe you could
Yes.
go into that
But when they
detail,
came
explain it.
back,
Yeah.
yes. But when they came back, they didn't, again, they didn't do it right. They didn't contain it. There's a reason why our ships are the way they are, our ships.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we jump from one point to another, we contain our frequency field within the ship. And the ship itself is affected by the same frequency field itself within a contained environment, which allows us to shift from one position to another.
Huh.
This is all, again, through photoradionics. But one thing I have said in the past is that your experience of time is your experience of frequency increase, your frequency change. The Schumann resonance is always constantly increasing, very slowly, and sometimes faster other times than others. We're coming into a big photoradionic belt, full of photonic energy, light energy, and that's raising frequency faster. So the Schumann resonance is beginning to spike a bit quicker now. But what happens is that as time, quote unquote, increases, really what it is the frequency of everything around you, the overall average frequency, your Schumann resonance frequency increases at a steady rate with every frame, like a frame in a movie of time that slips by. So all timelines are merely just channels. There are different channels of radio in a way. So every time, quote unquote, exists on its own radio station. Every moment of time exists on its own radio station with its own unique frequency. And if you know these frequencies and the intervals in between them, you can actually change your body's frequency using a device to change which frequency your body is in, existing in, which time frequency, as if you want to call it that, it exists in. So you can jump from one radio station to another, just like turning the dial on a radio, but with your whole body. And a device, in this case with us, our ships, can do the same thing. We can jump in time by changing the frequency, but you have to know what and where you are going to. You have to actually know exactly the moment of time, quote unquote, that you are going to jump to, and the coordinates in time that you will be at, and what will be there when you get there, and what will not be there when you get there, and what the conditions of the atmosphere will be when you get there, and other things. There are so many factors, weather, the terrain, what is there, what is not. Are you in space? Is there a planet there at that time, or has it moved in position? There are so many different things you have to consider when you time travel. When you travel through frequency, you must know these details, or you may end up being, let's say, molecularly tied to a wall of your ship, or being stuck inside of a rock or a boulder, or having other things inside of you maybe that you don't want, or maybe being merged halfway with a tree when you reappear. You don't want these things to happen, so you have to study your environment, study it very carefully to know where you're going, what frequency you're going to. Now, the only way you're going to know the frequencies of the time that has changed is by following the Schumann resonance, by following the history of that. If you really want to know, let's say, what frequency 1960 was, or 1950, or 1953, or a specific day, March 25th of 1953, if you want to know that specific frequency at exactly 3 p.m., you need to know where the Schumann resonance sat at that time, and you can calculate it. You have to know how to calculate how the frames have increased since then, and how fast or slow variably they have increased or decreased in speed. So if you know these things, and you have a device that can change the frequency of your body. Right now, your body matches the Schumann resonance or just slightly higher. If you're vibrating higher because of meditation, you're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the frequency just by a bit. If you cross the frequency too much, you will ascend to the next major band. In other words, the next dimension will cross from 3 to 4D. If
So,
you're able to break that barrier. So frequency also works with ascension, not just time. So time, again, you can translocate through time. You can translocate from now to a time prior to us or ahead of us. Variables in each timeline, they change as time progresses, but every timeline has exactly the same amount of variables. They just have different values between timelines, and usually timelines that are parallel to each other are very similar to each other, but with enough subtle differences that you would consider each timeline its own timeline.
So let me just interject here. Right now, what we're screen sharing is today's screen capture of the Schumann resonance.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of them. I have a second one to share, but it's very interesting because there's this one. I would say she's like a psychic tarot reader. She reads she actually reads coffee cups. I'm not kidding you. And she does this compatibility chart if you want a reading with her, and she says she has to know the year you were born because she says it's a different because the frequencies. Now this is something really wild, folks. Get this, okay? If you want to know if you're compatible with somebody, you have to know what, year they're born in because the frequencies might not be compatible. The frequencies you're born and the frequency they're born might not be compatible frequencies. That was very interesting, and she's painfully honest about that. But I just wanted to add that to what you're talking about, Audrey. If you want to explain this, this is from today at about roughly 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, did I lose your sound? Okay.
Basically, the frequency has jumped. Now you can see here from one point to another here, from 13 to 14, that the frequency,
Mhm.
we had a really big jump here just the other day, and it just steadied itself out just a little bit.
Hmm.
The frequency itself has actually risen just slightly.
I'm
Every
gonna.
time the frequency rises, again, it's like adding a new frame or a new keyframe in
Mhm.
this movie that we call time. So every time there's a really big change, you'll see a big spike in the Schumann resonance. Now, another big thing I want to note to you is that every time CERN is run, it also causes jumps in the Schumann resonance, just a little bit. Now, if you had the software that Apache Dan used to have on his phone where you could view the statistics of CERN, you would note that The times when they run their CERN colliders, sometimes they align to the biggest jumps in the Schumann resonance frequency.
Yeah, maybe if
So,
he's watching, he could chime in on the super chat and tell everybody what's going on with
absolutely.
that. This is the other
But
portion of
overall,
the I'm sorry,
yes.
this is the other portion of the chart that was posted. And just so our viewers know, we do post these daily on our Twitter page, so you can find these. Can you explain what these are? These look like different waves that are different type of waves that are registering on this. I don't know.
Well,
I
these are
don't
all
have a clue.
different waves, but I want you to note that all of them together create a gradual incline,
Hmm.
very gradual incline over even just 2 days.
Mm,
Um, but you can see that there was a dip and there was a jump.
yeah.
So on your F3, you got a dip there just between the 13th and the 14th.
Hmm.
All right. On your
Right.
F4 down at the bottom, you have an increase at the same time that you have a slight decrease on your F3.
Hmm.
These frequencies, so these are all individual frequencies, frequency 1, frequency 2,
Hmm.
frequency 3, frequency 4.
Right.
Okay, all of these individual frequencies are different aspects of one frequency. Imagine it being like almost 4 dimensions of one frequency. It's very
Mm,
interesting because when you're talking about the Schumann resonance, you're talking about one, but it's broken down into multiple.
I see.
So there's a very gradual increase each day, and this will
Mhm.
continue to rise like this periodically. So eventually we'll be above 8.10.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's the aggregate of those. I'm trying to find my screen again. It's the aggregate of those. Oh, why did I do that? I'm sorry, I lost my live stream screen. That wasn't a good idea. Hold on a second, folks. I can't believe I did that. I think I lost my live stream. I hope not.
We're still live on the radio.
Yeah. Oh
and
my
we
God.
haven't and I have it archiving.
Oh, all right. Let me take this off because I think I did lose the live stream. No, it's still live streaming. Okay, I'm sorry. I lost the actual screen for it. Let me see if I can get it back. Sorry about that. Because I wanted to screen share Audrey's website here. And oh, there's my, thank God it's there. James is there. Hi, James. It's our friend James from UFOria Chronicles. How are you, James?
Euphoria Chronicles Shockwave Radio. Welcome, James.
Yeah. So, okay, I got the screen back. Sorry. What I wanted to do for a moment, I know it seems like we're jumping around a little bit, and I apologize for that. Um, but I wanted to screen share really quick as we are entering into our second hour now. I wanted to screen share the website for. Well, this is the Facebook page for Ascension Radio. Again, this is
Louisa, I think we lost your audio.
oh, for goodness sakes, I'm on mute. Jeez. Sorry about that, everybody. These things happen when we're live. You never know what might happen. Okay.
This is a new artist that we went ahead and we aired some of his music for him upon his
Mhm.
request, Marco Palmieri.
So this is the Ascension Radio. This was part
Mm-hmm.
of, this is what we're launching tonight with Audrey Lewis. You will be finding GoldFish Report archived reports on Ascension Radio. So you can go there and look for it. There is the URL for Ascension Radio. It's a wonderful partnership that we're starting. And you can also, uh, that's on Facebook. That's their Facebook page. So you can type that in and you can see the URL up here. Just type in Ascension Radio. Actually, it says MPAQ as well. And then I'll screen share your actual website. That's what happened. I screen shared something and I lost the videos. My goodness.
Not a problem.
Okay, I got it all back. I wanted to screen share that for folks so they knew where to go to. Here it is. Here's your Ascension Radio. Now I'll be able to get back to this. I'm going to screen share this as your actual website here where you can go and listen to the radio programs, which this one is. Audrey, are we still live on your radio station right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Excellent.
would actually hit the stop if you don't want that to air. It looks like it's already paused, but we would get feedback if you hit play on that.
Okay, well, I was just going to screen share it so people knew it's radio.mpac with a Q .org. Okay, so it's MPAC. It's not IM, folks. It's just regular MPAQ. As I was explaining in our preview report that we did, that the problem with the letter M is that it's a diphthong, and linguistically speaking, that is my minor. And a diphthong is a phoneme with two allophones, which means it's a phoneme with two sounds. It's a letter that has two sounds, so it's not K, K, K. It's M, M. So you always hear the I or the before the sound. And so naturally we put that in there because, you know, impact has IMPAC. So just know that it is a linguistic thing. It's an error that we do, but it's a linguistic thing that we have in the English language. It's a diphthong. So usually only vowels are diphthongs, but this is how it is. And it is just MPAQ. So hopefully that helps. So now I'm going to go back to the live stream and yeah, the Kali Yuga. There's a lot of comments. Oh, I see. Okay, so your Apache Dan is trying to come on Super Chat to ask questions, to talk about. Actually, you know, I could give you guys I could give him the link for the Zoom. He could join us if he wants to, but he might not want to do that. James,
Absolutely.
we
He's
can
more than
invite him
welcome if
on.
you'd like.
Yeah, we can invite him on. Absolutely. James, ask Dan if he wants to join us so that he can answer those questions. What were the questions? I don't remember. Sorry. I'm trying to watch what's going on. Audrey, what did you bring him up for? Do you remember?
We were talking about CERN,
I
and I
can't,
brought up some of the software that he used to have on his phone. I don't know if he still does. I believe he does.
there's no way for me to do that. James, I'm going to have to give it to you. Okay? I have to give it to you, James, because I don't have any way to give it to your friend Dan. So I'm going to have to give it to, okay, Audrey. So why don't we, while I'm doing that, um, I know that we're supposed to start our second hour with Q&A, but I don't think we're exactly done with some of the topics that we wanted to cover. So I think
Absolutely. There's
we're just gonna
still
take
so
a,
much more I want to talk about, so let's continue.
yeah. So
So I was talking about time travel. We were talking about timelines and frequency change, human resonance, CERN, and a few other things.
mhm.
So basically, every single frame of time exists on its own frequency, just like a radio station. They're all their own radio stations. Every moment in time that passes, every single frame of time has a whole frame of variables that have been changing constantly. But there, again, it's a fixed amount of variables when it comes to a timeline. So it's a very large amount of variables, but they all change at the same time. Some may not change and stay the same. Others will change a lot more sporadically. Now, what happens with CERN is that whenever they fire on the CERN collider, it pulls a couple of timelines nearby that are also using CERN at the same time, like a magnet. It crisscrosses and they swap variables.
Mm.
You get what is called the Mandela effect, what they've come to coin
Ah,
as the Mandela effect, where suddenly random variables will change in our timeline totally unexpectedly. You know, you may have kids one day, and suddenly the next day you never had kids, but you still have the memory of your kids being there. But
can you
then
imagine
suddenly,
that? Not waking up and you don't have
or
your kids?
or you had the greatest job in the world, you had a great home, and suddenly you wake up the next day, you're living in a box behind a dumpster. You don't know how you got there. Your whole life was just taken away from you, and nobody remembers it except you. You know, things like that happen. When you either switch a timeline, which also can happen, people can trade places just like variables, or you will trade variables with another life you had in another timeline. And that may not be what you want. And, you know, so what happens is that things change, people change, events change, times change. You know, whenever CERN is, you know, being turned on and they're causing these timelines to crisscross over each other just for a moment, but just long enough to where variables trade places, really brief.
Hmm.
And it's very random.
Audrey, pardon me for just a minute, but
Go ahead.
there's some people in the chat that your comments are not welcome here, and if you're not going to be respectful, then please leave because this is live, and there's things that happen on our computer system that happen, and you know that's the way it is. So if you're not happy with that, then please leave. You don't need to be here. But for those who you know are polite and you're certainly welcome. We love all of our viewers and we do appreciate you being here. We are going to be opening up the super chat pretty soon. And of course, they're $20 super chat Q&A questions. It is to launch Ascension Radio, and it is for Goldfish Report for the new year 2020. And we hope that you have appreciate in this holiday time. We do hope you appreciate the over 400 reports that we have brought to our viewers. I do have a list of questions already that people have put in the super chat, and I will be asking those first. But I am very happy to welcome anybody to for a super chat at any time. You don't have to wait for the Q&A to start. You can do that at any time. So I apologize, but you can continue, Audrey, and we hope that maybe our friend Dan can join us to talk about CERN a little bit.
Absolutely. Perhaps even directed energy weapons. Give you a little bit of insight, perhaps, on what they were doing to you.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
didn't screen share that picture of my face yet. I'll do that when we get to it, though. Yeah.
okay, not a problem.
Yeah.
So, anyway, as I was saying, whenever they fire CERN on, and it also fires on concurrently in other timelines, it causes these timelines to start to bend towards each other. They cross through each other just for a moment, but just long enough for variables to trade places. When that happens, you find funny things happening in our timeline. As to a lot of people, some not so funny things.
Hmm.
A lot of people wouldn't find, suddenly their loved ones are missing to be very funny.
Right.
But it does happen, and it's because the cabal is playing with forces that they still don't entirely understand.
Hmm.
And they shouldn't be playing with these toys, these pieces of machinery that, they've come to design without understanding fully what it is they're doing. When you're smashing atoms together, it creates a doorway for just a split second,
Hmm.
but just long enough for things to cross through and trade places. It glues two timelines together for just a moment as they cross through each other. And sometimes it can, cause a couple of other timelines to weave in and out too. It creates this wonderful looking pattern, but it creates a wonderful mess of variables. So, we really try hard to fight that with intention and meditation and other things. We try to put those intentions out
Hmm.
to try to stop that kind of change, to try to keep the timelines moving in a straight pattern so that people aren't losing what little or what lot that they have in their
Right.
lives, whether it be losing loved ones, losing property, or events changing entirely and people around them changing. They're suddenly in another timeline.
Hmm.
It happens. Up there's Blue. Hello, Blue.
So is is there anything good coming out of CERN?
For some people, it could be extraordinary. For others, it's absolutely miserable for them. They live in a terrible reality every day, having lost everything due to these variables changing massively in
Hmm.
their lives.
Hmm.
So it really depends on which end of the spectrum they end up on.
I see. And in terms of um, how does it do that? Does it work with HARP, the CERN? Does it work with HARP and the ionosphere? And how does it really do this? How does it change our timelines?
Well, HARP
What is a
and CERN
timeline
are
for
two
some
very
people?
different things, but
Yeah.
HARP does mess with weather using frequency and radio waves in about the same way that collapsing atoms into each other by smashing them against each other creates its own set of frequencies and opens a doorway. But using HARP, they can create, if they focus it on specific places hard enough, they can create time anomalies
Hmm.
with that. They have been able to do that in the past, creating basically maybe a doorway that
Hmm.
someone suddenly crosses through and they're in a different time without even realizing it. Or people have missing time, crossing
Right.
through vortexes created by HARP and their weather systems that they generate. It can throw people off for about 2 to 3 hours. They will suddenly jump 2 to 3 hours at a time. In other instances, Zetas are legitimately abducting people and they have missing time because of that. So basically, in a nutshell, you have many different cases of missing time, whether it be vortexes, gateways opening literally because they're messing with frequencies. Again, using technologies they barely understand themselves.
Right.
And or CERN is causing timelines to shift in a way
Hmm.
that people's lives are changed drastically because variables are trading places with other variables in timelines that match those same variables but have different values.
Hmm.
You end up with a Mandela effect.
We've heard about that. We've heard about remembering, recalling like radio programs or TV shows one way, and then, seeing it present another way. Like, I think it was in the 70s. If you grew up, if you remember the 70s, there was this TV show called Zoom. And they used to start it out by saying, okay, this is the dispute. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Or it would say magic mirror on the wall. So some people remember it saying magic mirror on the wall, and it was about magic. It was a magic mirror. But some people remember it being mirror, mirror on the wall. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's one of the
I've
examples.
heard it both ways.
Right, right. So that's one of the examples. Now, CERN, you know, they're supposed to be building another one over in Japan, a bigger one. Someone wanted to know, and I think this is a general question: are they opening up negative portals with this? We have seen the spiral, the Norway spiral. I'm sorry, the Norway spiral, and that did look like. I mean, I don't have to be even a scientist to figure out that was like a portal opening. I'll see if I can find that video and I'll
Absolutely.
screen share it. What do you know about
Well,
that?
when they're opening doorways and portals, it's a two-way street. Things can go in, things can come out.
Mhm.
So dark entities, dark things can come through. That's entirely possible, and it happens all of the time.
Mhm.
You can open doorways with technology. You can open doorways with language, spelling, spells. Whenever you're talking, you are spelling to the world. You're creating spells, which by definition, um, it classifies everyone as a spell caster. If you're casting spells by saying words, if you're pronouncing words, enunciating words, you are creating spells. It creates action. But telepathy does the same thing.
Mhm.
It manifests action without using direct communication. Um, in inadequate communication, like speaking with verbal sound. With telepathy, it's more direct. It is to the point, but without using the intermediary in between, like sound, to create an action or an intention. So it's a lot quicker.
Okay.
But anyway, where I was going with that is that are able to open gateways spiritually,
Mhm.
and things can get in that way. whether it be using Ouija boards or alcohol or drugs or
I
other
see.
things. You're opening doorways into your
Mm,
soul, into your body, into your mind, and dark things can get in that way too, just like this portal you were just referring to. So that brings things into our timeline,
mhm,
brings things into our realm,
mhm.
but you can bring things into yourself too by opening doorways just the same.
Well, here it is. Here's a picture of the spiral. I don't know if you can see it on the screen share, but they're trying to say that it was an out of control missile. I mean, they think we're that stupid. This does not look like an out of control missile at
No, it's like
all.
calling it a weather balloon.
Exactly. They might as well just do that, right? Exactly. So for people who didn't know what we were referring to, this was what we were referring to. But isn't but that's what alcohol does too, though. It's why they call it spirits, right?
Absolutely. Well, they call it, I've heard it called demon juice. I've heard it called,
Hmm.
well, there are a couple of other names I would rather not say here, but
Yeah, but isn't
alcohol
it
opens doorways,
right? But
and
it's because
go
you
ahead.
abdicate your free will when you are under when you use. I guess I would say hard liquor. I don't know what the difference. Why it would be. Why hard liquor. I don't know if it would be all of it or if it's just hard liquor. I think that's because they call it spirits because it's the hard liquor, and that's why they call it spirits. Actually, is that right?
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
exactly why they call it that.
Mm, yeah.
Hard liquor brings in demons a lot, or opens up the doorway for
Mm,
them to enter. And that's the thing is, you don't have the will to fight it, nor do you have the common sense to know that you are giving up your free will, that your free will is off. When you are totally drunk, as they say, you don't have any free will. You were just there. You just are, and things come in, and things then control you from the inside. And then after you wake up from your drunk spell,
mm.
they stay with you because you gave them permission to enter, whether you knew it or not.
I did it again. Hold on a second. I did it again. You lost my. Oh, there it is. I see. I see. So here's the link. There's no beam. I couldn't explain this. Dan will have to come on and explain this because I can't. So James Borg, from our friend from Euphoria Chronicles, who is in our chat section, has sent a link to CERN to show things. So Dan will have to come on to explain this. Uh,
Wonderful.
yeah, so hopefully he will. And oh, I see. He doesn't have to come on with a picture. He doesn't have to come on the video. Okay, he doesn't want to. All right, whatever. Maybe he can't come on last minute like this. Well, it's too bad because it would be nice to have that explained because it is such a huge, you know, it's a huge thing. It's really big. So um,
Show me the picture really quick.
yeah, maybe you can. Thank you, Heaven on Earth, for the super chat, folks. We're going to be starting the super chat. Q&A momentarily. We're running a little bit late. Sorry about that, but because there's so much to talk about, so we are running a little bit late. This is apparently what he sent over. This is showing that it's shut down right now. There's no beam, but you can normally see when it's on. You can get a read for what the strength is, and I guess it shows you the time. It shows here's Atlas. So there's different facilities there at CERN. There's Alice is one of them. Atlas is another one, and so there's different facilities that are running. Whatever they're running, doing their experiments or doing, opening their portals or whatever. But Dan was always very good at explaining this. Audrey, did you want to make any comments on this?
Well, what I was looking for is not there, is missing in one
Right,
of the boxes here, but what I can say is that it appears that it's been quiet.
right,
They haven't really done too many tests here recently, according to this.
right. I mean, I could swear it was running on the full moon the other night. It was,
It may have, but
yeah.
I'm not seeing any really big tests that have been run here on this.
Now, does this operate
Jen
with?
could explain this a lot more in depth. He
Yeah.
understands every element of the screen, but what I will say is it's not busy,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
they're not running it at this moment.
You know what I'm going to do? I could put in the phone number if he wants to call in. Maybe that would, and that might help. I'll give that to James and see if he wants to call in, because I think the viewers would find,
Absolutely.
I think the viewers would find this, very interesting. This is the call in number, and yeah. Now, does this work with AI? Or can you like explain? I think this AI is very scary. We don't really understand it very well. Elon
Well,
Musk,
Dan would say it works with Animus, which is an
he
AI.
would say that. He would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Animus. Yeah. To discuss that, maybe he'll come on and talk about that sometime for our viewers. Um, okay, this is the code number for the phone. Okay. So, Audrey, we want to move forward and talk about meditation. We are running late, folks. So, we're going to go, as I said in the beginning of the interview, that we may go into a third hour, actually. And it looks like we're probably going to do that. And I had a feeling that we would. So, what I wanted to do, look, this idea of meditation. There's a clip I want to play real quick, and they talked about it in Star Wars. They talked about the Force. They talked about, and I know it's a movie, but it's this is a very profound point. And before we get into the meditation, because I want you to comment on this and explain how significant it is that they did highlight this in the movie. And I hope I don't get any YouTube copyright strikes on this, but it's for education purposes because we're talking about meditation, and this makes a point about how powerful our minds truly are. So let me screen share this. And this is the part where Luke Skywalker, Yoda is trying to teach him to use the Force and use his mind to lift his ship out of the water. And he's at a point now where he tried and he gave up. And this is what Yoda has to say about that. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Before I screen share, I have to enable my computer audio. Okay, good. This way you guys can hear the good quality of this. Okay.
Too big. Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? And where you should not. For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it. Makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us. And binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship.
So I just want to leave it, I wanted to play that. This is for educational purposes. So let's hope we don't get a strike on this. But this is true, though. This is about the energy is all around us. And this is, of course, how Dan would also call it the morphogenic field. Audrey, do you want to explain this as we go into talk about meditation before we start the Q&A? Thanks.
Well, you have to understand that everything is made of vibration and frequency. Every single thing is made of exactly the same thing, no matter how large it is, how small it is, how fluid it is, how solid it is, how bright it is or how dark it is. Everything is made of the same thing, just in different combinations and at different frequencies and vibrations and patterns therein. So because of this, one of the biggest, brightest things you see in the night sky is what?
Well, the moon.
Well, not outside of the moon. What do you see in the universe that is big and bright and strong? A star.
A star.
We are all made of the same thing that a star is made of. And so what I've been teaching people is how to manifest a star within their heart chakra, inside of their heart chakra, in that space, to create a space for a star and allow the star to glow and shine brightly with strength and radiance, You feel how hot it gets. You feel how strong it gets, how big it is. You feel its rotation. You feel it breathe. You feel this bright star grow within your heart chakra when you're meditating. You focus this inside of your heart chakra while you're meditating. So imagine creating a space, just black space to start inside of your heart chakra, and then a star begins to form. It starts out small, and as it starts growing, it spins slower and slower, but it starts out spinning really fast in either direction that you want it to spin, okay? Stars start out spinning fast when they're small, and they spin slower as they get bigger, which is the nature of everything in this universe. For the most part, most big, heavy mass objects in this universe spin a lot slower than lighter, larger objects like Jupiter. Jupiter spins faster than Earth, but it's made mostly of gas. Doesn't have the same physical mass that the Earth has as far as as far as a solid is concerned. Mm-hmm. It does have a really large core. It has a really large, dense core at its center. But unlike the Earth, it doesn't have a really hard outer shell. So it spins really quickly. It rotates really fast. Well, a star doesn't rotate as fast as a gas planet because it is constantly exploding and trying to implode at the same time. So it creates this kind of a vibration. And the same type of vibration is in every quark in your body. Inside of every nucleus of every atom inside of your body, they're all doing the same thing. They're vibrating. Because within those quarks, you have photoradionic waves, these strings that people try to identify. You know, they created a whole string theory about it, about what's inside of a quark, the mechanics of what is incredibly small. Photoradionic waves are made of two things in three different aspects. You have frequency, vibration, and then the vibrational frequency of what's created thereafter creates a wave. And there are lots of those within quarks. And when they get highly excited, they glow. And when they glow, you know, they start to cause the quark itself to get hot, which causes other quarks around it to do the same. And then eventually they explode out of the nucleus. The atom actually releases quarks, which then fly out and bounce off of other things, creating the illusion of light. When these quarks hit the cones and rods in your eyes, it sends an electrical signal to your brain telling you that you've seen light, creating in your mind an image of what you see around you. This creates the illusion of a physical reality. So every single thing is made of the same thing. In a very big way, this whole universe is a hologram. Every single thing is a hologram. This is an illusion. What you see is an illusion, although you may feel it with your fingers, you may touch it, you may feel the heat with your skin and your nerves, you may see the light from all of the photons that are bouncing off of it. A photon is just a highly excited quark separated from the nucleus of its atom. That's all it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's just a quark, just like everything else. And it gives off energy just like everything else. So when you meditate on a star growing inside of your heart chakra, what you're doing is you're creating the intention of increasing the energy in all of the quarks in your body. You start to generate more heat. You start to generate more power within you. You're charging yourself up when you meditate on a star growing within you. And what this does is it recharges the mitochondria within the cells of your body. And because of this, causes your cells to begin to replicate more perfectly. Gradually, with each generation of cell, the more you meditate, the more perfectly they replicate, and the more youthful they become, which then manifests from within healing, and thus youth. Regenerates a form of youth from within.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead.
There's a scientist that worked, I think, with secret space program, let's just say.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's his name? David Wilcock talked about this inventor by the name of Kenneth Shoulders. And he described what's called charge clusters, and that these were exotic vacuum objects, and that they were directed through a very fine point needle into a converging center, and then it created this high energetic reaction, and that was used for propulsion of this what they called a hybrid underwater craft. It generates anti-gravity, uses argon gas. Is this How does this play into photoradionics? Is this part of that or no? Is this something totally different? Because
Well,
he's
it
talking
actually
about it in
is.
his last. He's talking about it. David Wilcock is talking about it in his last broadcast, I think it was.
Know that both dark and light matter are made of quarks in the same way. Dark matter is just a quark in negative phase, negative frequency below perceptible range. We only see a very small portion in the light spectrum. When it comes to dark energy, you can't see it because it is outside of your frequency just as much as a spirit would be. So using dark matter and light matter in between, I'm going to say it like that, you can actually create different types of particles in a vacuum. Now, what we don't use, there's kind of propulsion using argon gas.
Right.
Photoradionics actually is our photonic drives, our photoradionic drive engines are actually made using crystals at the core, Audacia crystals. I like to call them Audacia because that's the kind of frequency it makes. So Audacia crystals have very large quarks, and when they're excited, they create a type of a light beam. The quarks are fired out at high velocity, focused in an intense beam, which creates massive propulsion. Because the quarks are larger than the quarks in the space around them, when they enter the space, it creates a forward propulsion, forward thrust. It hits harder against hydrogen atoms and other things out in space.
So Yoda is correct. Yoda is correct that we're not just this flesh. We are you know, what did Yoda say? What was the quote? We are luminous beings. That's what Yoda said. And
we are luminous beings.
I have my what do you call this here? My Chewbacca. Hi, Chewie. Chewie, wake up. It's supposed to be it's supposed to be working. Hold on. There you go.
Awesome.
Oh my God, my hair is all messed up in the back.
Everything is made of the same thing. So everything is made of energy. Everything is made of photoradionic energy at its simplest form. Mm-hmm. And because of this frequency and vibration, you can actually change the frequency of your body to vibrate higher by meditating on a star growing at your center within your heart chakra. Mm-hmm. So when you do this, your body begins to heal. You meditate enough, you can actually turn back your clock. You can turn age itself backwards. It is possible to go back over the hill once you've gone over the hill. You just have to focus on climbing the hill, and the way you do that is through meditation. This is how we maintain our youth. This is how we remain youthful. Why Area 51 workers were so shocked. You know, even though our blood proteins measured to be older than the way we looked, we still had youth, and they didn't understand how that was possible.
Right. Chewie's
having
all
older
talkative
blood,
now.
but young, yes, having older blood, but a youthful appearance. Mm-hmm. It was very intriguing to them.
Okay, so before we move to the Q&A, I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about this. Did you want to talk a little bit more, Audrey? Because we have to move into the Q&A now.
Let's go ahead and move into the Q&A.
Okay, before we do that, I just wanted to, you were talking about radiation, right? And so, folks, I'm a little bit surprised. I actually have done a lot to try to recover, and I just want to share with you that, you know, for whatever not for whatever reason. We pretty much know, why they do it, but I wanted to just screen share. I'm going to do it real quick, all right? Because, I woke up yesterday and, not yesterday, it was the day before. And so it was like a day after I announced that we were going to do this live stream with Audrey Ewis, and we were going to talk about these things that have been, taboo for quite a long time. And of course, the other things we talk about on the GoldFish report and whatever. And I'm going to screen share this. I've never do this before, but this is what I looked like when I woke up yesterday, folks. I'm only going to show it really quick, but I want people to know what I have to deal with. And this is my face. It's all swollen, all red, and that's quick enough. And I did recover today. I was a makeup artist, everybody knows. So but I did put a lot. I did do a lot. Iced it for a long, long time and all of that. And it's a burn. I mean, it's burned. And I do have makeup on covering it up, but it's very painful. It's very itchy. And, it's a mystery as to how this happens. Audrey, did you want to comment on it before we go to the Q&A?
Well, I know if Dan were here, he would say that you were hit by a form of a directed energy weapon. Whether it be a microwave, radioactive device, an MRAD, or whether it be a directed beam itself. I mean, an MRAD's a little more wide. It doesn't focus as much unless they have a directed energy weapon itself that focuses the energy. Well, you looked like a toasted French fry. You hadn't been out in the sun. You hadn't been sitting. You weren't sitting out in the sun or anything. You didn't burn yourself in scalding hot water. This happened because they shot it through your walls, whether it be from above or from the side. So I do think that you have people that have been trying to attack you. And that picture was rather shocking.
Yeah. Well, this has been going on for a very long time. And this happens at night. There's something maybe, mounted on a satellite. I don't know what, on a truck, on 5G. Is it 5G? Who knows what it is? But every night, it's the same thing. And I'm very sensitive to frequency. So it wakes me up. And there's times when they, this is very common for targeted individuals. And even one of my friends, Tiffany Fontenot, who does the reverse speech analysis, she's hit and targeted all the time. And they aim at all parts of your body. They aim at your lungs. They aim at your reproductive organs. They aim at your stomach, or even, your kidneys or something. It's always something. And then, this time it was my face, but this wasn't the first time. I mean, I was actually in the hospital the first time it happened. I had to go to the emergency room, and my face was extremely swollen. That was much more than that. So, I'm putting it out there on the record because I'm really very private, to be honest, and I don't share my private life with publicly. But I felt that I did need to share that because I wanted to be really clear that, we're still at war. Make no mistake about it. We're still at war. And with these dark forces, the shadow government, whoever controls them, whoever doesn't want disclosure, whoever doesn't want, more for the people, whoever doesn't want equal rights for people, whoever doesn't want human rights for people. There is, as Benjamin Fulford, I can quote him, and you take it, use your own discernment, but, he did say there's an anti-life force on this planet. And not everybody is, it could be a smart meter. I don't know if I have a smart meter. I have no idea, but it's possible. It's very possible. I think that's what they used, Audrey, over in Paradise, California. Was it? I mean, in addition to directed energy weapons, I think it was also, there's also some, it does look like radiation burns. Wes is commenting. It's exactly what That's exactly what it feels like, a radiation burn.
Looks like you were fried by a directed energy weapon shooting a beam of highly radioactive energy right through your house and hit you right in the face.
The problem is that when it's a microwave, and I've read about this, we've reported, look, in the FOIA request, it was released and published by Popular Mechanics that accidentally released with a FOIA request was some top secret documents pertaining to targeting individuals with these frequencies, with microwave frequencies. And what it does is it evaporates all the water in the skin and makes it painful, and I'm extremely itchy. This is why I'm itching. So it is, whether it's permanent damage or not, I don't know, but I don't want to digress too much in the interview, but I did want to share that because I needed, people need to know, and I need to put it on the record that as a journalist, I am being targeted for the things that I'm reporting, and including interviews like this that talk about photoradionics, talk about time travel, because we're not supposed to, we can't handle it. That's why. Actually, the truth is the military industrial complex can't handle it. They can't use it responsibly. They have to weaponize it. But I can guarantee you, if you give it to people, I think most people would be responsible with it. It's only those who are who abuse their power. And it's not far, Audrey, to understand that, as we can see what Congress is doing right now, abusing their power to oust President Trump. So there were some people that had questions. We are going to start the
really quick. I wanted to add one other thing.
Sure.
Up at Standing Rock. Oh, that was another topic we didn't get to yet.
I know we have to.
Maybe another time, unless the audience has questions about it. But what I will say is that up at Standing Rock, Apache Dan, Dan was hit by ECCM weapons up often. So was the van, and the battery got shot by that pretty bad. We had to replace a lot of things in the van that was blowing out. But regardless, he was hit by an ECCM weapon. That's an electro countermeasure device. And they use that in a directed fashion, just like a do. But it's more handheld, or it's on a boom. They would fly around in the helicopters above us and fire those things down. There was a time he used himself basically as a human shield in his front driver's seat to protect me. He was hit straight in the chest, and it literally vaporized bone and parts of his lung. Mm-hmm. It cut basically a hole right into him from the inside. And, he was trying to protect me, so he took a major hit. Now, I helped him heal from that. Mm-hmm. It took him a while, but he finally got all of that out of his system. He still deals with a little bit of after trauma from that. Even to this day, he has some things he deals with, but for the most part, he's healed fully from that. But they're always trying to attack him, just like they're attacking you.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if what they're hitting you with is not only maybe a directed energy weapon, but an ECCM.
Well, I don't know, but what I do know is what what I see, and there's no other explanation for it. It's not an allergy. It does not respond to any antihistamines or any Benadryl. Nothing. The only thing it responds it responds to is the prednisone steroids, which you don't want to be taking that for a long period of time. But however, in case anyone else does find themselves suffering from this, I have found some other remedies, which is turmeric tea. So if you use actual turmeric, it is an anti-inflammatory, and it's very common in Chinese medicine. So that is one of them. And of course, there's some other products that I'm not ready to talk about yet. But I also have a silver spray.
Yeah, with the turmeric, make sure you add a form of piperine to it as well, pepper, or some other type of piperine. And the reason I say this is it helps your body absorb the turmeric better, because your lining, the pores in the inner lining of your inner intestinal walls don't open normally big enough to absorb the curcumin within the turmeric.
Right.
So because of that, you don't get the full benefits of it unless you open it up with something. Piperine causes those pores to open wider, allowing for your body to absorb curcumin much better.
Pepper. Well, I'm using also ginger and cinnamon with it. I don't know if that does help, but I know I know you need to take it with something to absorb it. Yes, I've tried aloe vera.
It needs a catalyst to absorb better, so.
Yes, I have tried the aloe vera, and initially it burns too much because it dries and it tightens, and you don't want, on burned skin, you don't want anything tight. So, but
Absolutely.
yes, I see the comments that the viewers are making. So look, we're going to move into the Q&A finally. I know we're a little bit late, but my gosh, there's so many questions. So let's start with, we have, hey, you guys, who is, we are so happy. Thank you for your donation. And she has a couple of questions. Okay. I think this is regarding the ascension process that we're in right now.
Okay.
Okay. When do you know when the transition will take place? Some people are saying it's the winter solstice on 12/21, so it would be in next week. Or
Well, the major transition itself will actually happen between the 21st and the 23rd. And the reason I say that it's because even after we pass through that, we will still have energy radiating down on the earth. So it takes a little while for that band of energy. Imagine when the earth punches through a big band of high vibrating energy, it kind of stretches it like a rubber band pushing through it. Even after the fact, it takes an extra day or two before that energy dissipates. So we're going through a period of frequency increase here, and the Schumann's been, as you could see, spiking just in the last day. So we have a lot of energy raining down on the earth.
Okay, the next question is, now just to remind our viewers, it's a $20 super chat at the minimum to ask questions. This is the fundraising part to launch Ascension Radio and for GoldFish Report. It's a joint fundraising effort. So it's anybody can make a super chat donation, and if you can't, please message me in the chat here and let us know, because you can always go to our website at thegoldfishreport.com and use PayPal there to make a donation as well. Now her next question is, will the reptilians continue to control us? She had a few other expletives in there, but I'll just leave it. Still
Not for
communicates
very long. I will say that their time is very short. The Cabal is a culmination of Anunnaki, Reptilian, Draco, and Zeta, and some others, hybrids, human hybrids. So they're all going to lose their footing here very soon. We're working very hard to move everyone into a period of freedom, and that's coming very soon. I can't say too much more about it, but what I will say is that you guys have a lot of good things coming. This long winter of hardship is coming to an end, and spring is coming for people's lives here. And I don't mean that as far as the seasons here, but the season of hardship is coming to an end. And we're going to be moving into a much better, higher vibrating frequency here very soon. So just keep holding on and everything will get better. They won't control us for too much longer.
That's good to hear. And also, we just want to invite Apache Dan to join us if he'd like, either by phone to answer those questions with Audrey Ewis. So he's welcome to join us if he can do that. If not, that's okay. We also have another question. So kind of like a long question. What are your thoughts on President Trump? And with your telepathy, would you say he is guided by divinity? And what do you suggest we do as Earthlings to fight this evil cabal? So it's kind of about Trump and in your
he's
telepathy.
being bombarded by negative forces all around him. I will say that there is a really heavy control system that he is fighting. And it's hard to keep your footing, especially when you are trying to stand tall in a system that tries to put strings on every limb and try to control everything you do. When you're sitting in office, it's not an easy thing to make decisions that everyone's going to be happy with. So what I do know is that, he's under a lot of pressure, just like everyone. We're all under a lot of pressure. Cabal is weighing heavily on everybody in different ways, whether it be mentally, electronically, spiritually, telepathically. Yes, telepathically, they do have readers and seers that they use to try to hurt people. Everyone's been under heavy attack, and I'm not going to sit and say that one person is worse than another here in this society, because what I can say is that everybody is equally under attack here.
Mm-hmm.
So he's under heavy control, heavy duress. My stance, I feel for all of humanity, and he's part of it. I want everyone to stand taller. I want everyone to fight back against the cabal. And I know that, I know that he has a team that's trying to do that, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit and say that I agree also with everything he does. But I will say that everyone has their ups and their downs in
Mm-hmm.
this society. So that's about the best I can say.
Okay. I could add to that. I know you questions for Audrey, but I do think that there's a lot of positive forces that are influencing the president as well, and I think he is in contact with many different. Look, we've got the space program, so who do you think he's talking to? I mean, his uncle John, was a physicist, and he was
Absolutely.
able to have contact with, he was able to collect the Tesla papers after his passing. So,
I will say here, let me add to this really
sure.
quick. The advent of the Space Force. Now, we have a lot of our people that are coming within these quadrants here lately. A lot of ships that are up there, and the Anunnaki have been trying to fight our people
Mhm.
needlessly, because we're not here for war. We're not here to harm these people. We're not here to violate any treaties. We're merely just hanging out in the open space out there. So the Space Force, though, I think is being created because they want to reach out in a better way that the people themselves can see with their own eyes, and be able to follow what's going on up there a little better with more disclosure. So I am seeing, as Louisa was saying earlier, more disclosure happening.
Mhm.
Now, the fact that there is a Space Force is a sign that they are acknowledging the fact that there is need for a force up there, because yes, there has been a war going on that a lot of people down here have not been seeing. We've had ships that have been knocked out of the sky quite often by ours because they're firing on us first.
Mhm.
But we're not here for war. We do try to defend ourselves, rightfully so, but we don't go out and actively try to shoot Anunnaki out of the sky unless they come after us.
Hmm.
So the Space Force, though, is probably going to act as a mediator up there. We will see. I'm
Uh,
excited to see where that goes. Now, there has been a secret space program for decades and decades. There have been even Illuminati ships up there, in the same shapes as Anunnaki ships that have been shooting at our ships. So when that happens, we do have to fight back. We don't just sit there and let them kill us.
Okay, let me ask. We have Liz Starwalker. Did you have a question, dear? We appreciate your super chat. I didn't see a question. I could. Let's see. I see you. Yeah, no, I don't see. I don't see your question. But if you did, please, please type it again. Pat Hahn, I thank you for your super chat as well. I don't see a question from you. If you do have a question, please retype that if you don't mind, as I am trying to scroll through the super chat here. Okay, we have another question from Hinsdor. I don't know, it's just the name. He wanted to know about your telepathy and if you still use it, and who do you use it currently with, if you are still relying on telepathy. Your telepathic ability, I guess that's what.
I use my telepathy every single day in different ways. I'm either seeing ahead, seeing timelines, and calculating a route through obstacles, or I'm communicating with people.
Mm-hmm.
I communicate with a lot of my friends here, a lot of my team. My lady here would say I communicate with her every day through telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I use telepathy quite often, whether it be with animals or people or timelines. I see ahead, I see before, I see the now, and I can travel with it. With my telepathy, I can focus on any place I want and be there. I can even take others there with me. You know, I've done this with a few, including my woman here. I've taken them to different places to show them what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anything is possible with telepathy. There are no limits. There are no boundaries. So there's no system of control when it comes to telepathy. The only limits you have are what you place on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is not to put any on yourself. You can go as far as you want to go with your telepathy. With mine, I travel anywhere I want to go. I see the cabal anytime I want to see them. And sometimes I let them see me.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, sorry.
I think,
Didn't know if you're
I
done.
think honestly that when I do decide to go walking through, let's say, the Vatican, that they should just get out of my way.
Well, I can second that, but not for a different reason. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody the super chat Q&A has started, and you can for a super chat donation, you can ask Audrey direct questions regarding the topics he's talked about. If they're inappropriate questions, we won't. If there is inappropriate questions, we won't answer them here, and then your super chat would be refunded. But that's how we're operating this. So I have more questions about the transition. I'm not sure how much you know about it, but will our lives be happier, longer, and healthier through technology? Will we have cures available for will they be released for humanity?
Yes, actually, we have that technology and we want to bring it here.
Mm-hmm.
We want to bring it here for all of you to use freely. There will be no more healthcare system. The healthcare system will be at your own hands. You can use a healing pod anytime you want. Your lives will be happier, more peaceful. There will be a period of peace coming, and that is because the cabal will no longer have control. The keys to your shackles have been handed to you, and your shackles have been unlocked. Your cage doors have been opened. So now that you are here, you are awake enough to finally see that change is coming. But you also have to play a part. You need to meditate. Start helping us raise more of the frequency here. The more people that meditate throughout this world, the higher the frequency gets here, faster. We can actually raise the frequency of this world just by meditating. So if we want to make some change happen quicker, start healing yourself, start teaching others how to meditate and focus on good intentions. Focus on things that you want to have happen. Focus on good intentions with love and compassion, even good intentions for the enemy. You know, focus on good intentions for the cabal, because I always hope that people of all races, colors, species, doesn't matter where they come from, what world they come from. I always hope that everyone sees the light one day.
Okay, Liz has a question. Actually, I think he might have just answered the question for you. But Audrey, if you want to add to this, she says, many of us have been activated for this time of paradigm shift. Is humanity consciousness vibrational frequency effectively raised by individual meditations, or it needs to be group meditations? You kind of answered that, but if you want to add to that.
The answer really is both. You can raise your frequency for the collective, or you can help others to raise the frequency as a collective. Now, the more people that meditate, the better, as I was just explaining. When we all meditate together, we raise the frequency globally. We raise the frequency faster. The Schumann resonance, you start to rise above the resonance because you're increasing the frequency so quickly that even the Schumann resonance can't keep up with you. But as a result of that, you pull that higher too, and you help others that may not know as much as you, that may not be as far along in their journey as you are. So you help everyone, whether they're awake or not, by meditating, whether it be by yourself or whether it be as a collective. I would always encourage people to meditate in groups if they have the ability to do so. You know, if they have enough friends that are awake, maybe sit down and have a meditation session together and encourage others, maybe in your circle, to do the same. I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah, there are comments about meditation. Right now, there's no more super chat questions. Actually, I think I might pull another question. Um, will our bodies be made whole again, cancer cured? I think that might be similar to the question that I just asked.
Perhaps I will go ahead and answer that with a big
Okay,
resounding yes.
wonderful.
Everybody will have the cures available at their disposal. Technologies will be brought here that will allow you to heal yourself of your own accord as far as you want to. Our devices are healing pods. They heal with vibration. They accelerate the vibration in your body rapidly to help your cells heal faster by holding their vibrational level up at a very high level technologically, which allows your cells to replicate faster, more youthful, and more complete replications with less damage. Everything heals, and cancer will die. It does not vibrate at a high level. Our devices cause cancer to kill itself. Literally, the cancer cells commit suicide.
Yeah, for people who are familiar with theta, people who work in theta healing, I don't remember the woman's name. I think her name might have been Diana. I don't know her last name, but she was a teacher of this and explained how different emotions vibrate at a certain, different frequencies. And I've screen shared this with Dr. Scott Warner a lot, many, many times that we've done our reports together. And, they do correspond to illness as well. The Louise Hay books, You Can Heal Your Life, she talks about that as well. And uh, so Audrey, like shame, fear, and guilt, they vibrate at a very low vibration.
Absolutely. If you
Yeah.
feel anger, shame, misery, depression, sadness, all of these things keep you from vibrating higher. They impede your ability to meditate with focus. Now, this is why I say you can't sail a boat with your anchors down. You can't
Right.
fly a hot air balloon with your weights attached. You know, you can't drive a car without wheels unless you have some kind of other propulsion. But my point is, without letting go of your anchors, without letting go of the things that cause those negative emotions, it's very hard to rise and ascend. It's very difficult. So, in order to ascend, you must be clean of these things. In order to really bring yourself to the point where you glow with radiant light, where you are a bright light bulb in an otherwise dark world around you, a beacon of light on a hill for others to find and see when they're lost at sea in the storms of this world. For people that are stuck out there in those storms on those boats, you need to be able to let go of your anchors first before you can help them with theirs. So, in order to love others, you have to learn to love yourself. And that is something that we've been trying to teach for a long time. You have to learn to love yourself first before you can love others. And in order to love yourself, you have to learn to forgive all of those that have wronged you throughout your life, or all of those you may have wronged. Forgive yourself. There are things that we do in life that we have a hard time letting go of in this society. This is what is taught. And it's actually taught that way in society so that people will not move forward. We're taught to hate and fear and to be angry and hateful and resentful against others and to hold grudges. You know, we really try hard to teach people how to let go of all of those negative emotions, negative levels of consciousness. You know, the higher levels of consciousness in this chart that she is now showing, you know, in order for you to reach that, you have to let go of the things that hold you down. So let go of those anchors, let them sit in the sea, because you have sailing to do. You need to move forward and find these people also lost at sea and bring them to the shorelines to safety. Get them out of this world of chaos and bring them into this world of love and happiness and high vibration. You know, we want people to be able to help others, and we can't help them to help others without helping yourself first. So let go of all of these negative emotions. Let go of all of the pain that this world has caused you. Forgive people even if you don't believe that they deserve to be forgiven. Learn to let go of those things that they've done to you. Okay, they are beings just like you, and they're living hard lives too. Everybody in this world is equally in existence. So why don't we all work together? Why don't we work together to live in a higher frequency, to help everyone learn to ascend? Now, know that you cannot be an evil being with evil intent and ascend at the same time. You cannot have it both ways, which is why I have no fear in teaching these things. You know, we're not letting the bad people go through the good gates. You know, we're not letting the cabal break down the gates that separate them from, let's say, Haven and 4th D. You know, if you want to ascend, if you want to cross up there, if you want to reach even the 5th dimension, you can't be an evil being. So I don't have any fear in teaching these things.
Okay, let me interject here if I can. First of all, this chart, you know, on the right-hand side talks about creative energies that are expansive, and then below a certain number, so below 200, they're destructive energies, which, you know, they're constrictive. So if you're not vibrating high enough, you know, take a look at this chart. But you can just Google this, actually, folks. You can find this anywhere. But it's important that we move on, that we heal, and that we forgive. All right, somebody said, well, how do you forgive the cabal and the Satanists for torturing children? I agree. That's a tough one. I don't think I'll extend.
That's
If
a
I
very
have to,
difficult thing to forgive. But again, to help those children that are being tortured, it doesn't help them to learn if you yourself are negative over the cabal being negative to them. I understand the way the chain flows. I understand how all of that is evil. But we need to focus on meditating for those kids that are being tortured, trying to help them raise their energy and strength that they may become free of those situations too. Because those rings, those sex rings are still going on. You have Bohemian Grove, you have, you know, other sex rings here around the world that all involve the Illuminati, the Vatican, you know, even the Skull and Bones Society, Freemasons, you know, going up the scale to the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, you know, some of the richest families in the world are all involved in these giant sex rings involving pedophilia. And these children, you know, are being tortured needlessly for adrenochrome and other things that they like to extract from them, or they use them as sex toys. You know, these children are innocent. And for us to begin to help them, we need to start raising first the energy of this world. And we want to start breaking the cabal, make this an environment they don't want to be in. They love unhappy environments. They love negative energy. They love hate and misery and sadness. They thrive on these things.
Feed on it, right?
You want them to be uncomfortable. Let's start raising the vibration of this world so high that that it becomes so hot with love that they can't stand it. Let's start marching down their walls with love and protest in love. Let's bring down. go ahead.
Sorry, we
I'm
are
sorry.
going past our time, but I did indicate that we might do that. I don't see
Yeah.
any more questions at this moment, but we didn't get to talk about Standing Rock, and I think this would be the perfect time to do that while we wait for some people who may want to ask questions. It's a super chat Q&A, folks, so it's a super chat donation for to ask questions. And so you wanted to talk. Actually, I brought up Standing Rock because I thought that Standing Rock was one of the most amazing things. I didn't go, but you did, and so did our friend who we talked about earlier, Dan. um, and it from my perspective, I saw indigenous populations all over the planet who came together to. It was just the most amazing thing I saw. I mean, from Mongolia to China to uh, Aboriginal down in Australia. I think we had South American indigenous folks. Everybody was. If they couldn't come to Standing Rock, they took came together in a group and made a banner and wrote that they were a message on it. Water is life everywhere, and that was the best moment. I'm telling you, everyone in the world came together for this. And eventually you achieved your goal and you had to draw the line in the sand. And who knows this better than our indigenous population, our indigenous cultures who have been here the longest and who pass down wisdom. And that's what we're missing in this present day modern world is wisdom. Because these indigenous people have, they tell their stories, they pass them down verbally. You can burn as many books as you want, but they will never lose their stories because it's passed down. I'm not an expert on it, but I do get it. I get that that's how these cultures work, and we need to show respect for that and let them take a little bit more of a lead because they have a lot to teach us. Um, we have an amazing event. I couldn't believe all the people that came together. It was the most wonderful thing I ever saw. And why can't we continue to do that? Did the message of Standing Rock get lost? Why aren't we having more people? Well, in fact, we are, right? There's protests in France now starting the second year. There's protests in other countries like Hong Kong. There's been protests in Spain. Obviously, there's been protests down in South America, in Venezuela. America, take note of this, okay? Because we talked about our Declaration of Independence, which is our instructions, folks, on how to retain our freedom. And if you're not going to follow those instructions, you're going to lose it. So we were given those instructions, and we should take it very seriously. I think President Trump is doing everything that he possibly can, but I think that the people don't expect anybody to come in here and do it for you. There's some big things that we need help with. There are other galactics here. I have had Alex Collier on recently. He talked about the Andromedans and their role and how very clear they are, that there are big things that they're taking care of, but there's things that we need to take care of on the surface, like, Congress, the corruption and things like that. We also had Rob Potter on talking about, with his the commander on the moon base, Clarion. That's called the moon base. It's called Clarion. Commander Rains, who he was able to interview and share some excerpts of that interview where she was talking about her role. And yes, the president recently said when we had this all-female spacewalk that we're going to Mars and we're going to stop at the moon first because we're going to launch from there. So guess what that means, folks? That means there's bases on the moon. Okay, so it's not a far stretch now. It's not a far stretch to realize that, I mean, they're going to make it sound like it's all brand new. They're going to announce it and they're going to make it sound like it's all brand new. It's been there for a long time. So, and I think Audrey, I had asked you about that as well. So what happened to the message of Standing Rock? And you might want to add to that because you were there, about how you felt everybody come together. Thousands of people were there. You had so many different villages. I think and it was one called Rosebud was one of the.
Rosebud,
Remember
Chetty,
Rosebud? Yeah.
Chicoine, there was Sacred Stone, Eagle's Nest, Black Hoop, Wolf Den,
Right.
Shine River Four Bands Camp. There was the
These were different camps.
There was Prairies Camp, Eagle Butte Camp. I mean, we had camps everywhere. We had a couple of other smaller ones like Vortex Camp and a couple of others in between, Red Warrior Camp.
Yeah.
But the big camp was Oceti, and that was the camp that I started in. We had a very large population of people there. And I just remember when I went there the first time with Dan, the feeling of magic, that energy, it was so special. It was an amazing thing. This was the first major example of Ubuntu that I had gone to here in the United States. This is the first big example. And suddenly here it was.
Right.
You know, here I was talking about it for so many months on the radio before Ubuntu, and then here it was, Standing Rock. You know, they formed a system of Ubuntu, barter and trade. You know, you didn't go in there and spend money for things if you needed it, all you had to do was ask, give them a reason, they handed it right to you with little or no questions at all. We had general goods tents, we had donations coming in, we had food kitchens. And then there was commune. There was, you had the sacred fires. You had, ceremonies going on constantly, announcements going on in the mornings. And, we had just this feeling of unity and community, fellowship. And it was an amazing thing. So when I went to Standing Rock the first time, it was this feeling, this sense of family and belonging to start with. But then there was this problem. We had the pipe we had to fight. Now, how do you fight a pipe, and how do you fight big oil? How do you fight corporations and big banks? You had big banks and big oil working together there at the same time. And then you had the law that was blind to the fact that they were running it through a river that could potentially spill oil into millions and millions of people's drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there
so
was
how do you
leaks
fight
there.
that? We did it with, there was, and there's still leaks in those pipes. But I will tell you that the one running under, although they claim it is running, I can tell you, unless they ran a whole separate pipe alongside it, or they managed to get those bulldozers out of the ground that currently smash the pipe down, that it is impossible to run oil through a smushed pipe.
Right.
Legally, they're not supposed to, because if the pipe is damaged, then they're supposed to go back through, tear it up, and rebuild it proper. They're not allowed to run oil through a pipe that's even remotely damaged, which is why some people at the camps would damage the pipe even a little bit, dent it if they could, put some tiny dents in it, enough to where they had to stop the oil again and go back through and replace that section of pipe. But anyway, so back to the community, though. This feeling of unity, we were up to 16,000 people strong at our peak. We had that many people. We were one of the largest towns in that whole area of North Dakota. Quite literally, we could have been our own zip code. So we were so big. Now, I remember after December 5th, when Obama, I guess, had passed a new executive order shutting DAPL down. They were forced to shut down their operations. They claimed that they were going to back out, that they were going to take their equipment away, and everybody was celebrating on December 5th of 2016. Everyone's dancing around the sacred fires and stuff, and we just lost, we as vets just lost JR American Horse earlier that morning before all of that, but we didn't know the full story behind why he was being kicked out, but I was the one that had to walk him out all the way to the Cannonball Bridge to his wife. But needless to say, we were all kind of emotional about that. Us vets, and then, our veteran community and everything else, we were sitting there staring at the hillside, and I was staring at the hillside. I had tears in my eyes because I was mad. I was mad that they kicked out JR that morning. And but I didn't understand the reasoning behind it. So I didn't have the full information at the time as to why they did that. But I'm staring at these pipes and all of their equipment and all of their vehicles. Nothing had moved. Everything was exactly where it was the day before. I went back to North Veterans Camp and I told them, as long as their equipment is up on their hills, our equipment is on our hills. We are not moving. I
Yeah,
said, we,
you guys did not stand down, let me tell you. I mean, I can remember that speaking to you during the whole time you were there
Mhm.
on and off. And, um, I did receive some photos from Dan actually, who swore he saw some interesting things going on there, but felt that there were definitely look, there were weapons, crowd control weapons they call them, where they blast frequencies on you and things like that. And of
Oh
course,
yeah.
we know what happened on November 21st. That was live streamed
Well,
with the
November
water
20th
cannons.
to the 21st, it started on November 20th, 2016. We called that Backwater Bridge Sunday. And that day, me and a band of other vets, we ran up to the bridge to help push this big burnt truck off of the bridge. Apparently, Radler was trying to dismantle the barricade, trying to take it down. Now, we had asked them for permission prior to doing that, just for the record, to be able to take down the barricade because we wanted to be able to let in emergency vehicles at minimum. That's all we were asking. Just allow for ambulances and fire trucks to come through if needed. And they refused. They said no. So we continued to press them for some leniency to just allow some simple vehicles, emergency vehicles, to come through. And since they said no, Radler decided to chain up to one of the chain his big diesel truck up to one of the burnt vehicles and start dragging it off. So we ran up there and we got on the back side of the burnt truck. And anyway, we began pushing to help him. He put chains on it, and we started to. He was dragging it, and I was the guy in the middle on the back pushing,
Hmm.
while I had two other guys to my left and two other guys to my right also concurrently pushing on the back. Well, we get the truck moving, and the wheels aren't turning because the axles are fused. They're fused. They're fused to the rims, like physically locked to the rims. So
Mhm.
the wheels aren't turning, they're just digging grooves in the road as the truck is being dragged. So we continue dragging this truck off, and they start yelling at us to stop, that if we actually succeeded at getting the truck off the bridge, that they were going to raid Ocheti-Shikowin, that they were going to take down the whole barricade and come through with a flood of Morton County sheriffs. So
That doesn't, but
they ended up opening fire on us. They
yeah.
shot us with tear gas, flying baton rounds, beanbag rounds, rubber bullets. The rubber bullet balls were actually smaller than people thought. They called the
Mhm.
flying baton rounds, the 40 Mike flying baton rounds, they called those rubber bullets. Now, granted, they look like rubber bullets.
Mm.
They look like bullets. They're actually basically they're the same caliber as grenade rounds, 40 Mike.
Mm.
You'd use you'd use those in grenade launchers.
Audrey, let me just interrupt because I remember communicating with you so much during that time, and
Mm-hmm.
the issue though about the right to assemble. I mean, the camps did not allow weapons,
No,
right?
they
They
didn't.
did not allow drugs, from what I
No,
recall, other than I
no drugs, no
probably
alcohol, no
marijuana. I don't know, but
weapons.
there's
People
yeah.
still smoke marijuana there
So,
anyway, but
there was no reason to amass this arsenal of
no,
technological weapons against you people. And,
we
according to our
were innocent.
Constitution, right, according to our Constitution, we have the right to assemble. But,
Yes.
this is how we've been hoodwinked. When you really see, this is a perfect example to see, folks, you don't have rights. You're kidding. You're absolutely living in fantasy land if you think you have rights. It has been
We
hijacked via your social security number. When you signed that SS4, you gave over your rights. You exchanged your rights for benefit privilege. Nobody knew this.
yeah.
They don't care whether you know it or not. That's how it is. And you had what they called, didn't they assemble a free speech zone, which was like this one little small little section construction area that you guys?
Yeah, right up there at the very front of the barricade, and only if we weren't quote unquote rioting would they allow us to actually talk there and have press there and such. But
right.
the thing is, whenever they would start firing upon us anyway, the press would also get shot at. The press were getting shot by both rubber bullets, tear gas. They were being shot with a water cannon. I was hit personally up there, standing near where the press was, up there near the front line. I was getting hit by the water cannon too. I got shot 3 times by that.
Yeah.
And it was below freezing temperatures. So we ended up, by the end of the night, having icicles actually forming on all of the razor wire they had up there. We have pictures of that.
Yeah. And
So
remember the canoes and the boats and all that?
Yeah,
Hey, and not only that, what was the girl's name who had her arm blown apart? And I actually have.
That's Sophia Wilansky.
Sophia, she's had so many surgeries. I've seen she has gone into the news. She has talked about this, but I do actually have those original photos. And do you know what? You can't find images of this. If you try to Google it, you will not find images. It will be very difficult, I should say, because I did try that. I tried to Google images of Standing Rock, images of water cannons and things. That's very few available online. It's amazing how they scrub the internet of things they don't want. This is how they control the information. Imagine what they're doing in the public schools. It's just as bad. Folks, we are going to start to wrap it up. If we don't have any more super chats or any more questions, then we will start to wrap it up. And we want to thank all of our viewers for stopping by. We want to thank the viewers who donated super chats. We do appreciate that. And we will just give it a little bit more time. And, you know, if anybody does have a question, it is a super chat donation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's about $20 a question. So we really need to do this to launch Ascension Radio and to support the launch of Ascension Radio. Plus, it's also to help the GoldFish Report as well, so we can continue to bring these live streams to you, as we use many different applications and software and things that just cost a fortune in terms of monthly subscription fees in order to bring these kinds of live streams to you, where we can interact with multiple people. I also wanted to say, I don't know if Dan is out there, but it would be nice to hear from you in the chat. If you just need to be signed in your account, and I think you can join the chat. If you wanted to add anything to the conversation of Standing Rock, that would be nice to hear from you. It would have been nice to get a little bit more comment on the whole CERN issue. And, you know, Audrey, we're just going to have to do this again. Would you come back and do this again?
Well, I would love to. But just to add to everything else, Dan up there, he was always by my side through everything, and without his support, you know, we wouldn't have made it as far as we did. You know, Dan, he was as much a hero up there as I was. You know, we both worked really hard to make a good change and to help Standing Rock have a better outcome. We helped as many as we could. You know, and the thing is, while everyone was comfortable in their tents and their barracks and their teepees and yurts and everything, me and Dan, all we had was a van. We basically slept in the van. You know, he still has that van to this day.
He calls it his white horse.
That he calls it Tashunka Wachia, which means lightning horse.
Nancy, thank you for your super chat. Do you have a question for Audrey Ewis? I'll wait to hear see if Nancy will type a question into the super chat. So we'll wait for Nancy
certainly.
on that. But we do appreciate folks. I mean, it is holiday time, so we do appreciate people showing their appreciation for GoldFish Report, for all the reports we bring, and of course for this one that we brought to you tonight. I mean, how often do you get to have a conversation with a Pleiadian, a real life Pleiadian? And I can tell you, I've known Audrey Ewis for a long time, and I can tell you he's not from here. And
you've met me in person.
I know, Audrey. I never saw you so happy to get a computer part in the mail. I've never seen joy on this man's face like I did when he received this computer part in the mail this one day, and it was amazing. I really, really never thought I'd see that, but you definitely know your technology quite well. And you know, let me just go and thank you guys. Thank you. What's the best way to meditate? Okay, Nancy, you might have joined a little bit late. We did talk about meditation earlier, but you know, she did make a super chat. So do you want to? Because I know it's hard for a lot of people to concentrate, to shut off the mind. Some people said that they like to have a guided meditation. And another person suggested that maybe you do that daily on your radio station, just, a short one for some people. I think guided meditations are
Absolutely.
very
Okay.
helpful because it's hard for people to shut their mind and the chatter of their mind off. So for Nancy's question, what is the best way to meditate?
Best way to meditate, either lay down or sit lotus style. Lotus style helps align your chakras in a specific way. Now, mind you, you have hand chakras and feet chakras as well, not just the chakras down your center line. Okay, so when you align your feet and your hands in a certain way, when you're actually getting into a position to meditate, you're opening your body up to receive energies from the universe, and to receive energies from the universe, not just send energy out. So you're turning yourself into a transceiver. So you can sit lotus style, or you can lay down as well. I usually prefer to lay down when I meditate. I don't always sit lotus style. I lay down and I shut my eyes. I'll cross my hands over my heart chakra, generally speaking, or I'll have my hands down to my sides. And then I just focus inside of my chest, inside of my heart chakra. I imagine that that is its own little universe, it's its own space. While I'm inside of it, I see this empty space and I start to fill it with light. I form a star at the very center, and I imagine that it is beginning to rotate. The moment the star forms, it's spinning really, really fast. And then as it grows, it starts to get slower and slower, but it's stronger. And I feel these pulses of energy. I can hear it almost like a drum beat as the star is pulsating, vibrating. So as it's growing, I feel its heat and its radiance, and I just focus on becoming that heat and radiance. Within that star, I imagine the child I used to be. I start focusing on happy things. Inside of the star, I see flashes of memories and things that made me happy, places I used to go and things I used to do that made me happiest. I focus on that innocence within that star, not just its strength and radiance, but I focus on innocence within the center of this star. And I meditate on this for about an hour or two at a time. Sometimes 2 hours in the morning, anywhere from 1 to 2 hours at night. Sometimes I do 4 hours in the morning. Really depends. I used to do a lot longer, but now that life is a little busier, I don't have nearly as much time anymore to meditate as I used to. So when I'm coming out of my meditation, after visualizing the child I used to be within my star, within my heart chakra, this little universe I create within my heart chakra, I imagine that I zoom back out of my heart chakra and it's still glowing like a bright star. I can feel that radiance throughout my body. And I feel stronger when I awaken from my meditation. I bring myself out slowly, though. Never just wake yourself up out of your meditation rapidly. If you do that, it's very disorienting. It's like, pulling a rubber band back and then just letting it go really quickly while you're still holding on to it. It smacks you in the hand and it doesn't feel good. When you snap out of a meditation really rapidly, it can be just as disorienting. It can feel like you just snapped back and it's very uncomfortable. So you want to bring yourself out of your meditation in stages. Okay, so very slowly start bringing yourself back into this reality. Phase yourself back in very slowly as you come back, and do it at your own pace. You don't have to go fast. You don't have to go too slow. Go with what makes you comfortable. So I want you all to try to be more patient with yourself as you're phasing, and you'll feel much better after your meditation when you do. So after that, you can continue to meditate in a conscious state with your eyes wide open while you're interacting with the world. This is something I've spoken about years ago, where you can be interacting with the world and still be in a meditative state. Once you get really good at focusing on a star within your heart chakra, you can meditate with your eyes wide open too. You don't always have to be laying down or sitting in a lotus style position. You can be busy with the world around you. And here's the fascinating thing about it. When you're doing that, you're affecting others around you in a good way. You're attracting a lot more people who become very curious about why it feels so good to be around you. You're attracting them just like moths to a light bulb. They don't understand why they're attracted to the light bulb. They just know that being around it feels good, that light and radiance in the dark of night. Moths are night owls. They're nocturnal. So when they see a big, bright source of light and it's warm and it's cozy and it's fascinating to these moths, they will start to flutter around the light bulbs, right? The same thing with people, same thing with animals, same thing with anything in this world. When you vibrate really high, you attract those around you a lot more to be more curious about why your energy feels so good. And they will never understand it, but they will want to be around you and talk to you and try to get to know you more, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, if I may continue really brief, the higher you vibrate, know that the more the cabal are going to see, but don't let that terrify you. I want that to be an encouragement, because the more of us that stand up, stand tall, and stand bright, the more that they're going to start backing away because they see a standing army of light workers. So I encourage all of you to meditate as much as you can. Raise your vibration, let go of your anchors, let go of all of those things that hold you back, and try to teach others that may not be as far along in your path. Try to spread the word and teach others these things. These are tools that will help them in the long run and help others. This will help us all become a united front against the cabal. Now, there are more of us than there are of them, so the more of you that wake up, the better.
We have another super chat question. Thank you, Jeff. I understand there may be a solar flash as a final event for ascension or destruction of our world, but will there be a series of smaller flashes to prepare the masses for this reality of enlightenment? So let me know if you want me to repeat that question at all, or any part of it. This has to do with the
there will
solar
be a
flash.
number of flashes. He's referring to big flashes of energy coming from the sun itself that rain down on the earth. And some of these can be really intense. Now, a solar flare is different. That is a big wave of material blown off of the sun. When that hits, that causes massive magnetic disruption. That can also cause many, many power outages and radioactive damage to people that are in areas that have less ozone. So basically what's going to happen is that people are going to raise their vibrations high enough here eventually to where they themselves flash off of this planet. You become light. You ascend with your body, not without. Your whole body becomes light. It becomes the vehicle, the shell that carries your soul, your spirit to the next dimension. So when you are meditating enough and you break that threshold beyond the Schumann resonance, you break through that barrier, your body begins to physically glow with light. You glow gold. And then you begin to ascend as an energetic light being to the next level.
Well, that's what Yoda was saying, we're luminous beings. And so I think what he was trying to find out was, will this destroy our planet?
No, it will not.
Will the ascension require that our planet is destroyed? There's another guy
No,
that's supposed to
even
be.
after we ascend, the planet itself will remain here, but the people on it will ascend in themselves. The planet will not be destroyed. I want to get that straight. This planet is not going anywhere for a long time yet.
Okay.
So,
do you call it sheen? Is that a term that you're used to hearing or familiar with? Sheen?
well, we call it more Shiara. It's different. So sheen is, I've never heard it called sheen before. We call it Shiara.
Okay.
but I imagine is the same thing.
Hmm.
We ascend to the next level, though, by raising our vibration past the frequency of this plane, past this radio station.
Yeah.
So you want to ascend to the next radio station.
That's great. So you're saying that everything we were talking about time travel before, you're saying every year occurred on a different frequency. So
Exactly.
time travel is a matter of um, dialing back to that frequency, but there are cause and effect things that can't be like something, in other words, QAnon, as you know, you're familiar with, talks about looking glass recently, and
Well,
so
they can see ahead and they can also see backwards with it too. So
can you just talk about what looking glass is? And I know Dan would know that.
it tunes into different frequencies and can also tune into different coordinates of frequencies as well, allowing them to see in different time, quote unquote, different radio stations, technically speaking, in the time displacement field. So everything in this timeline is divided by those, so it is possible to see into them. You can cheat that way a lot, and they use that a lot to change variables in the timeline.
Okay. Candace says she's suited up in the armor of God, belt of truth. There you go. When you talk about ascension and you talk
That's the
about
best
ascending
armor.
with your light body, I keep thinking of Jesus. Isn't that how he ascended, in the light body? Remember how he appeared to the apostles uh,
Yes,
and said, "Don't touch me yet. I'm not, I'm not done." Whatever he was doing, because he was transmuting the frequency
it
of his
would have
body.
thrown off his frequency.
Right.
If they're lower in vibration, touching his higher vibration frequency draws it down a bit and throws him off. That's why he said that.
Yeah, so our friend James Gillen's going to have a show coming up pretty soon, guys. You can go and check that out over at I believe it's BBS Radio rather. But just so you know, tomorrow we're going to be doing another Q&A live stream with, of course, our returning guest Greg Hamilton, who is Beautiful Day Patriots United on Twitter, and I did a previous interview talking about he has really cracked the code of doing the timestamp gap code comms for the Q board. Nobody's done it like him that I have seen. And so we did promise our viewers a Q&A. We will be doing that tomorrow at, let me just announce this before we close out so that our viewers know to look for this. What time is it going to be? It's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And this is the Q&A for the Q proofs, the timestamp gap code comms that Q talks about. Yes, we saw some people in the comment section talk about how there's new Q posts already. And, just remember that when it comes to Q, there's disinfo is necessary. And, basically this is really political theater playing out in front of us, because according to Q, again, with the looking glass, this is all done. This is all done. And this has to play out for those who are not awake yet, for those who are still sleepwalking and don't know the things that we talked about, couldn't, or wouldn't be able to sit here and listen to this conversation with someone who's not from planet Earth, but who is very much as human as everybody else is. And, so this has to play out this way. And, Trump is going to help welcome in the new golden age. Hopefully we're going to see that currency revaluation happening with the global currency reset. We know that China went gold backed. The yuan is the petro yuan at this point, and it is gold backed, and they did announce that. Other countries are pegging their currency to that. It's only a matter of time now for the US. This is a bubble that our stock market's in. Everybody recognizes that as that, and we do need to return to a gold-backed currency. I can't imagine, Audrey, what it's like on a planet without. I mean, I can imagine. That's really what's sad about it, is that I
Well,
can.
imagine the way we worked together at Standing Rock. It was, with barter and trade, it was really no different where I came from. So to see that here for the first time in a country full of slavery was really quite a magnificent thing to see. This was quite an experience. So, yeah, it is possible. If you can imagine Standing Rock and the way they work together, you can imagine where I come from just a little bit.
Right. So it's a barter system essentially.
Absolutely.
And is it about everybody, what I heard, and you tell me, I want to try to bring this
We
point out
give
though,
as
and
is needed.
yeah.
We receive what we need. We live within our means. We don't take more than we need.
But what about somebody still has to all right, you have replicators there maybe. So some,
Absolutely.
things still have to be made though. I mean, how do you like not have some, you have to have some goal-oriented life, right? I mean, just because everything might be provided for you, where does your motivation and intrinsic, motivation to want to fulfill your highest, purpose, your greatest potential? What motivates you to do that if everything is already provided?
Spreading love like a virus. You
Spreading
know,
love like a
we
virus.
find places here in this universe that are just so full of war, and we like to help people as much as we can. That's what drives us to do what we do.
Okay, we have 10 minutes left. We're going to finish this up in 10 minutes, folks. So if you have any other questions, it is a super chat donation. We're going to close this up in actually 8 minutes. So this is basically going to be it for tonight. We do appreciate everybody who has donated. We are grateful for your donations. We are launching, Audrey is launching Ascension Radio, where you're going to be able to find more of these kinds of interviews. You will find Goldfish Report streaming. Our archives will be streaming live there. You can go there and, check in and see what report happens to be, what interview happens to be playing, because of course you know that our first YouTube channel was deleted by YouTube. So we lost millions of views, we lost thousands of subscribers. We haven't recovered from that completely. And we're going to keep pressing on. But there are many obstacles that we have faced in trying to get this information out and share it with everyone. So we do appreciate everybody who comes by and everyone who has participated in the super chats tonight. It has been a lot of fun, and I think Audrey, I remember you talking about this when Ascension Radio is formerly Wolf Spirit Radio, and many of our viewers may be familiar with Wolf Spirit Radio. David Corso, I believe, is the one who had
Absolutely.
started that. He was a super soldier, and we know that
Hmm.
he was. He passed away, and then JP had it, and of course JP had to move on to other things as well. But we're so glad. You can do a super chat. Some people are asking. There's a little $ at the bottom of the chat where you can press and donate there, or you can go to the goldfishreport.com and donate there as well. And
Or
yeah,
to
thank you.
Ascension
Yeah,
Radio,
or
and there's
Ascension
another
Radio
donation there too.
on the website, right? The website has the
Absolutely,
donate button
directly
there
on
as
the
well.
website.
Exactly. You could go to Ascension Radio as well. So in terms of this, Audrey, we will come back. We have roughly, 5 minutes left, and like to ask anybody else if they have a question. We're going to wrap this up. I knew we'd go an extra hour because I know there's a lot to talk about. There's still so much we didn't talk about. I think viewers want to know more about what your life was like growing up. What kinds of things were you involved in? What did you do? And were you married there? Do you have children there? What is your family like? Things like that. How do families develop and grow, and what's your education like, and how old do people live? I mean, there's so many other questions I know that our viewers would be very interested in finding
Absolutely.
out about what it's like.
Well,
Folks, this is your
maybe
chance
next
to
time here we'll do another super chat.
yeah, that would be wonderful. So we're just gonna, last 5 minutes. I think there is somebody else who wants to that is asking about donating or asking about a super chat. So we're just gonna leave it for 5 more minutes. But I do want to say that I think you've mentioned this on when you were doing programs on Wolf Spirit Radio, how much you loved interacting with the people in the chat. And I have to agree, Audrey, that I
Absolutely.
absolutely love live this live interaction with our viewers in real time. this is really wonderful, and it's really the viewers that I love so much, that why I do this, because I don't have to do this, but it's because I definitely don't I don't want you know, I want people to know what's really happening in the world, so we can make it a better place. Because you know, I've had my battles and I haven't talked about them in detail at all. But I showed you this picture of what they did to my face, and it's a good thing I'm a good makeup artist, because I was able to cover it up. I didn't know if I was going to be able to tonight, but we
You did
have been taking
wonderful.
the arrows. Thanks. We have been taking the arrows, Audrey, and you know, you have been taking yours as well. And I'm sure people are going to want to know, well, how are you going to get back home? And you know, are you, you know, how are you able to communicate with them in order to, you know, get picked up, or whatever you're going to do? Are you going to make a ship and then go back? I mean, there's so many questions. I mean, look, folks, it's a person who's not from Earth we're chatting with, and you know, you'd think there would be a lot more questions, and that's okay. You know, people have to get used to this, but I can, you know, guarantee you that you will have time to think about it, and you know, have, you know, more time to wonder um, about what
Absolutely. Some
life on
people
New
get a
Lyra would
little
be like.
shy.
Yeah.
So,
So we do have somebody. Did you have a question? Um, we have another super chat. SB Fave, Fav, Fave. Do you have a question for Audrey? It is for questions. There are $20 super chats. So if you want to donate, it's a minimum, and you want to donate more, that's fine too. But it's all appreciated, and it all goes to operating expenses for public broadcasting. And we're glad to bring public radio and public broadcasting to you, because this is the only way that we're going to survive, is through viewer support. Until we can, you know, overcome the obstacles of these social media giants who are impacting our channels, and you know, demonetizing or downgrading and making it, you know, they're really acting in bad faith, because you can't operate, you can't survive if you can't stay online. So thank you very much for everybody with your beautiful comments. I do appreciate it. Audrey will be able to take a look at this afterwards. Unfortunately, if there's anybody here who else has a question, we are going to wrap this up now. We will be back with another Q&A with Audrey Ewis again, and maybe you know, Dan will join us for that one. Would you like that, Audrey?
oh, I'd love it for him to join us for the next one if he's willing to. That would be great.
Yeah, this was a little short notice. So Audrey, do you have any closing comments that you want to add for our viewers before we sign out? Because we have our last minute. We have 1 minute left.
Well, I wanted to say thank you all for coming to our broadcast. We'll have many more here in the future. And this is Audrey with Ascension Radio, and this is Louisa with GoldFish Report. So I want to thank you all for joining our show. This has been a wonderful broadcast. Your questions were amazing. So we'll do this again.
Wait, we have another question. We have another chat. Knight Rider, thank you for your super chat. Thank all the people who donated. Thank you so much for your super chat. What can he tell us about Inner Earth and the light being called Zora?
Ah, well, I can tell you a lot of things about Inner Earth.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are 1 minute away here, and without
Right.
taking it into another hour, perhaps this will be a question that I would love to answer the next broadcast we do here.
Okay, can you give him some information, anything, in this last minute regarding Inner
Okay.
Earth, like what
Well,
populations are there, and
Inner Earth, we have some continents like Agartha. There's Talos. Talos is on its own island. It's its own city, and that's actually one of our 3 colonies here from the Pleiades. We had 3 different colonies. One was Atlasia. You guys all refer to that as Atlantis. Atlasia was the colony of Atlas. atlas's star atlas of the Pleiades, Lemuria was the colony of the Lemurians, and they were initially also part of our Plagiaran system, but they were from planet Lemuria of the old Lyran system. Then there's Talos. And Talos was our hollow Earth colony. That was the colony underground. Now, more than 500 miles under Mount Shasta is Talos. And there are multiple cave systems that actually go down that way throughout the United States, one being Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. It's a very super deep cave that makes its way down to hollow Earth. Mount Shasta has a system under it too, and that's where I was heading back in 1972 before I was rudely interrupted by a missile and taken into Area 51, which is why we're talking today. So, Hollow Earth also has the Vril Society and the Thule Society of the old Nazi regime, and they work their way down through the southern entrance in Antarctica. There's a cave system there that also concurrently goes to Hollow Earth, and through the ice, they used U-boats back then to make their way through the Earth's crust into what they discovered to be a much deeper ocean than what's on the outer shell. There's more ocean inside of the Earth than there is outside of the Earth. Mm-hmm. And we have many, many types of animals down there that are very big. Some that you all find to be quote-unquote extinct up here are still walking down there. And what you call dinosaurs, giant reptiles, there are giant insects. There are centipedes down there so big that you could sit on them.
Wow.
You'd hope that those things wouldn't bite you.
Yeah, there's people in the comment section saying Blue has to go out. We get it.
Yes, he does.
So
Blue, it's time for Blue to go potty.
Okay, so why don't we pick up with Inner Earth on our next live stream? We can start with Inner Earth and go from there. And yes, someone is familiar with Mammoth Cave, and they did recognize that. And so, folks, again, tomorrow night, we're going to be doing another live stream with the Q Proofer, who does the timestamp gap code proofs. We're going to do a Q&A with him. His name is Greg Hamilton, and we hope to see you there. And Audrey, thank you so much for joining me and doing this together. And I'm looking forward to working together with you more, and can't wait to start broadcasting our Goldfish reports on your station. So this is the first one. So thank you for having me on Ascension Radio and Goldfish Report on Ascension Radio. And
I would like to say welcome to the family, and I look forward to more broadcasts with you on Ascension Radio. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much. And so, folks, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your super chats. And this is definitely going to help us, start things moving along. We're going to do this again soon because we have so many more questions we didn't get to talk about. And thank you for all the well wishes, everybody. I'm hoping to feel better and get this under control, this burning and this itching on my face. So thank you all so much. And Audrey, thank you again. And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report. And have a great weekend. And also, if we should come to you again, maybe by Christmas. If not, it'll be after Christmas. But if not, folks, Merry Christmas to all those who observe Christmas, and Happy New Year to everybody as well. If you don't return back to the to our live stream before the new year, hope everybody has a safe and happy new year for 2020. I think it's going to be a great year. If we can overcome our fears, we can just manifest so much more. So having said that, we'll see you all next time.